When Elena Cross walked into that bakery with her 5-year-old son, she had no idea the ghost she'd been running from for 6 years was already there, watching. Victor Moretti, the crime lord she'd fled while pregnant, recognized his own gray eyes staring back from the face of a child he never knew existed. And in the heartbeat before their worlds collided, before bullets shattered glass and blood-painted pristine floors, Elena learned the cruelest truth. You can't outrun your past when it's already found your future. Stay until the end to see how this impossible choice changes everything. Hit that like button and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far Elena's story reaches. The Tuesday morning air smelled of cinnamon and promise. When Elena Cross pushed through the glass door of Rosewood Bakery, her 5-year-old son's small hand tucked safely in hers. She'd chosen this neighborhood specifically, quiet, unremarkable, the kind of place where people minded their own business and asked no questions. Exactly the kind of place a woman could disappear. "Mama, can I get the chocolate one?" Noah tugged at her sleeve, his gray eyes wide with hope as he pressed his nose against the display case. Elena's heart clenched the way it always did when she looked at those eyes. Her son had inherited almost everything from her, the dark hair, the olive skin, the delicate features. But those eyes were a ghost she carried every day. Storm cloud gray, piercing and intelligent far beyond his years. "We'll see, baby." She smoothed his hair, her fingers automatically checking the small backpack she always kept ready. Old habits. Survival instincts she'd honed over 6 years of running. "Let Mama order coffee first." The bakery was nearly empty at this hour. An elderly couple shared a croissant near the window. A young woman typed furiously on a laptop, earbuds blocking out the world. And in the corner, shrouded in the shadows where morning light hadn't yet reached, a man sat alone. Elena didn't look at him. She'd trained herself not to notice men, especially men who sat alone in corners, men who radiated the kind of stillness that spoke of coiled violence. She'd learned that lesson the hard way, in another life, when she'd been young and stupid enough to fall in love with danger. "One small coffee, black, and a milk for him," she told the barista, a cheerful woman with flour dusting her apron. And she glanced down at Noah's hopeful face and felt her resolve crumble. "And one chocolate croissant." Noah's delighted squeal made her smile despite the perpetual weight in her chest. This was why she'd left. This innocent joy, this childhood unburdened by the weight of violence and blood money. This was worth every sleepless night, every minimum wage job, every moment of looking over her shoulder. "That'll be $8.50. Elena reached into her worn purse, counting out exact change from the handful of bills she'd budgeted for the week. $57 until Friday. Rent was paid, utilities covered. They'd make it work. They always did. She was tucking her purse away when she felt it, that prickling sensation at the base of her skull, the animal instinct that screamed danger. Her hand froze, her breath caught. Someone was watching her. Not casual observation, not friendly interest. The kind of focused attention that stripped away 6 years of careful invisibility and left her exposed, vulnerable, seen. Elena's training kicked in. Don't turn around, don't show fear, collect Noah, leave calmly. She reached for her son's hand. "Mama, that man is looking at us." The innocent observation hit like a bullet. Elena's head snapped toward the corner and the world tilted sideways. Victor Moretti sat in the shadows like a king on a throne of violence, an untouched espresso cup before him. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than she made in 3 months, tailored to perfection over shoulders that still carried the same lethal strength she remembered. His dark hair was streaked with silver now, distinguished rather than diminished. His face remained carved from granite and ruthlessness, high cheekbones, strong jaw, a mouth that had once whispered promises against her skin before it issued death sentences. But it was his eyes that stopped her heart. Those storm gray eyes, the same shade that stared up at her every morning from her son's face, locked onto hers with the force of a physical blow. She watched recognition dawn, watched his entire body go rigid, watched 6 years of mystery solve itself in his expression. Then his gaze dropped to Noah. The world stopped breathing. Victor's face transformed. Shock, disbelief, a flash of something raw and devastating that might have been anguish. His hands gripped the edge of the table with enough force to whiten his knuckles, the only outward sign of the earthquake happening beneath that controlled exterior. Elena saw the exact moment he understood, the exact moment he calculated Noah's age, the exact moment he realized what she'd done. "Elena, Her name on his lips after 6 years of silence hit like a prayer, and a curse tangled together. His voice was exactly as she remembered, dark whiskey and smoke, refined and brutal in equal measure. What have you done? She grabbed Noah's hand so hard he whimpered. We're leaving. Mama. Now, Noah. But Victor was already standing, already moving with that predator's grace that used to make her pulse race for entirely different reasons. You're not going anywhere. The barista looked up, sensing trouble. The elderly couple paused mid-conversation. The laptop woman pulled out her earbuds. Elena backed toward the door, pulling Noah with her. Stay away from us. Us? Victor's laugh was broken glass. That's interesting, considering you stole 6 years of us from me. He took another step forward, and Elena saw the tremor in his hands before he fisted them at his sides. How old is he, Elena? How old is my son? The words hung in the air like an execution order. He's not... But the lie died on her lips because those identical gray eyes were staring at each other across 6 feet of bakery floor, genetic proof that no denial could overcome. 5? Victor's voice cracked on the number. You left while you were pregnant. You carried my child, gave birth alone, raised him without me. To protect him from you. Elena's voice came out stronger than she felt. From your world, from everything you represent. Protect him? Victor's control was fracturing, emotion bleeding through the cracks. I spent 6 years searching for you. 6 years thinking you were dead or worse, and you were... His eyes found Noah again, softening in a way Elena had never seen. You were raising our son. Noah pressed against Elena's leg, confused and frightened by the intensity crackling between the adults. Mama, who is he? The question shattered something in Victor's expression. He dropped to one knee, bringing himself to Noah's eye level with a gentleness that seemed impossible from a man who'd built an empire on violence. My name is Victor. His voice roughened with barely contained emotion. And I'm... The window exploded. Glass burst inward in a glittering wave of death. Elena's scream tangled with Noah's as she threw herself over him, her body a shield against the spray of shards. Gunfire erupted, rapid, professional, the distinct pop, pop, pop of suppressed weapons. The world became chaos. Victor was already moving, his body covering them both before Elena's mind could process the shift. His weight pinned them to the floor as bullets punched through walls and shattered displays. The barista's scream cut off with horrifying finality. The elderly couple's table exploded in splinters. Stay down! Victor's command was absolute authority. His hand pressed against Elena's head, keeping her and Noah pressed to the tile. Don't move. Don't look up. Through the ringing in her ears, Elena heard shouting, heavy footsteps, return fire, more glass breaking, the metallic scent of blood mixing with cinnamon and coffee. Then Victor was barking orders in that voice. The one she remembered from nightmares, cold and precise, and absolutely lethal. Perimeter, now. 3 on the street. Marco, the alley. Nobody gets within 50 feet. But, boss, we need to move. Get them to the car. The woman and child are priority 1. Anyone who gets close dies. Strong hands grabbed Elena's arms. She fought instinctively, clutching Noah to her chest. Mrs. Moretti, we need to go. A man's voice, urgent but respectful. It's not safe here. Mrs. Moretti. The name she'd shed 6 years ago hit like a slap. We're not, move. Victor's roar cut through her protest. Now! Elena found herself hauled to her feet, Noah sobbing in her arms as 2 men in dark suits formed a human shield around them. Through the chaos, she caught glimpses of carnage, bodies on the floor, blood pooling, the barista's sightless eyes. Victor was at the door, weapon in hand, firing with brutal efficiency at targets Elena couldn't see. His movements were fluid, practiced, terrifyingly competent. This was the man she'd run from, not the one who'd whispered poetry in Italian, but the one who dealt in death as casually as breathing. The SUV, now! Victor dropped an attacker with 2 shots to center mass, stepped over the body without breaking stride. Elena, move your ass or we're all dead! The bodyguards propelled her forward. Outside, the quiet neighborhood street had transformed into a war zone. 2 black SUVs idled at the curb, doors open. Men in suits returned fire toward a nondescript sedan. Civilians screamed and scattered. Elena's mind screamed at her to run, but Noah's terrified sobs and the very real bullets punching through brick walls overrode everything. These men were trying to kill them. Victor's men were trying to save them. She ran. Hands pushed her into the SUV. Noah was torn from her arms. She screamed, but he was just being buckled into a car seat that shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have existed unless Victor had been preparing for this, unless he'd been ready. Victor dove into the front seat as the SUV lurched into motion. Bullets sparked off bulletproof glass. The driver took a corner hard enough to throw Elena against the door. "Status," Victor barked into a phone. "3 down, 2 fled. Civilians are casualties. Police inbound, ETA 3 minutes. Clean it. Standard protocols, make it disappear." Victor's voice was ice and efficiency. Then he turned in his seat and those eyes found Elena's. "Are you hurt?" She couldn't answer, couldn't process. The man who'd just orchestrated a massacre was looking at her with concern, with tenderness, with something that looked dangerously like love. "Elena," softer now. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, then immediately checked Noah. Her hands ran over him frantically, searching for blood, for wounds, for any sign that this nightmare had touched him. "Mama, I'm scared." Noah's face was pale, tears streaking his cheeks. "What's happening?" "Shh, baby, it's okay. We're okay." The lies tasted like ash. Victor's expression when he looked at Noah transformed everything. The ice melted, the predator gentled. He reached back with one hand, slowly, carefully, as if approaching something precious and fragile. "Noah, is it?" His voice cracked on the name. "That's a strong name." Noah stared at the stranger's hand, then looked to Elena for permission. She should say no, should pull Noah away from this man who dealt in death and violence, should protect her son from the world she'd spent 6 years running from. But the bullets were real. The bodies were real. The men who'd tried to kill them were real. And Victor, despite everything, despite 6 years and lies and stolen time, Victor had protected them. Noah took Victor's hand with heartbreaking trust, his small fingers disappearing in that scarred palm. "I'm 5, Noah whispered. "I like dinosaurs and SpongeBob. Mama says I'm brave." Victor's throat worked. "You are brave. The bravest." His eyes lifted to Elena's, and she saw everything there: accusation and anguish, rage and recognition, promises and threats. "But you're safe now. I promise you're safe." The SUV wound through streets Elena didn't recognize, taking turns designed to lose tails and avoid traffic cameras. The driver and another man in front said nothing, professional silence that spoke of years working together. Elena's mind raced. They were in Victor's vehicle, protected by Victor's men, heading to Victor's location. Every mile took them deeper into the world she'd sworn never to touch again. "Where are you taking us?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Somewhere safe." Victor's attention remained locked on Noah, drinking in details like a man dying of thirst. "Somewhere they can't reach you." Who were they? People who make bad decisions? Victor's jaw tightened. People who just made their last one. The SUV pulled up to a gated estate 30 minutes later. Massive iron gates swung open to reveal a driveway lined with manicured hedges, leading to a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine spread. Modern architecture combined with old-world elegance, all stone and glass and money that whispered rather than shouted. Guards stood at intervals, discreet but visible. Cameras tracked their approach. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. We can't. Elena's protest died as the SUV stopped and Victor exited, coming around to open her door himself. He offered his hand like a gentleman, like they were arriving at a dinner party instead of fleeing an ambush. "You can. You will. Because whatever life you built running from me just ended in that bakery. You can't just take us." "I'm not taking anything." Victor's voice dropped to something dangerous. "I'm protecting what's mine. There's a difference. We're not yours." "He is." Victor's eyes cut to Noah with devastating certainty. "My son. My blood. Mine. And anyone who tries to hurt him dies screaming. That's not a threat, Elena. That's a promise written in blood and backed by every resource I command." Noah was staring out the window at the beautiful house, distracted by the fountain and the gardens. He didn't understand. Didn't grasp that they'd just traded one prison for another. "I won't stay here." Elena climbed out without taking Victor's hand. "As soon as it's safe, it will never be safe." Victor moved closer, crowding her against the SUV.
The moment those men saw you with me, the moment they connected you to that child, you became a target. You think you can go back to your studio apartment and your minimum wage job? You think they won't find you? Won't use you to get to me? I've been invisible for 6 years. You were invisible because I was looking for a woman alone.
Victor's hand came up to cup her face, the touch achingly familiar despite the years. Not a woman with my son. Not a woman who gave me the one thing I never thought I'd have. You think I'm the only one who'll recognize those eyes? Every enemy I've ever made will put it together eventually. The truth of it settled like lead in her stomach. She'd been so careful, so cautious. But she'd never anticipated this, never thought about what would happen if Victor found them. "Mama!" Noah's voice pulled her back. "Is this where we're staying? It's really big." Victor released her face, but not her eyes. "It's where you'll be safe, both of you, for as long as it takes." "As long as what takes?" "As long as it takes for me to end everyone who knows you exist." Victor's smile was winter and razor blades. "And then we're going to have a very long conversation about the 6 years you stole from me." Oh. Inside the house, Elena felt reality shift further from anything she recognized. The entryway alone was larger than her entire apartment. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, art that probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire life. A woman appeared, older, elegant, with kind eyes that assessed Elena and Noah with maternal warmth. "Mr. Moretti, you're home early." "We have guests, Maria." Victor's hand settled on Noah's shoulder with possessive gentleness. "This is Elena and Noah. They'll be staying indefinitely. Prepare the east wing, connecting rooms, whatever they need." Maria's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of surprise, before she nodded. "Of course, welcome to Rosewood Manor." She smiled at Noah. "Are you hungry, young man? I just made fresh cookies." Noah looked to Elena, seeking permission in this strange new world. "It's okay, baby." What else could she say? They were here. They were trapped. Might as well let him have cookies. Noah followed Maria toward what Elena assumed was the kitchen, chattering about dinosaurs with the resilience of childhood. The moment he was gone, Elena rounded on Victor. "You can't keep us here. Watch me. This is kidnapping. This is protection." Victor moved to the bar, poured himself 3 fingers of scotch. "Would you prefer I send you home? Let you and our son walk back into an active war zone? Your war zone, your enemies, your world of violence and death." Elena's control was cracking. 6 years of fear and exhaustion bleeding through. "I left to get away from this." "You left while carrying my child," Victor's shout echoed through the house. The scotch glass shattered against the wall. "You let me think you were dead while you raised my son. Do you have any idea?" His voice broke. He turned away, shoulders rigid with the effort of containing everything he couldn't say. Elena had never seen Victor lose control, not once in the 2 years they'd been married. He was always ice, always calculated, always 3 steps ahead. This man, shaking with rage and grief in his destroyed living room, was someone new. "I'm sorry." The words surprised her. "For that, for letting you think I was dead. But I'm not sorry for leaving. I'm not sorry for giving Noah a chance at a normal life." "Normal?" Victor laughed bitterly. "You've been running scared for 6 years, moving every few months, working jobs beneath you, looking over your shoulder every second. You call that normal? Better than growing up surrounded by..." She gestured at everything. "This. Blood money and bodyguards and people trying to kill him because of whose son he is. He wouldn't be a target if you'd stayed." Victor turned back to her, and the anguish in his eyes was devastating. "I would have protected you both. Built everything to keep you safe. Instead, you made him vulnerable. Made him a secret. Made him exactly the kind of leverage my enemies dream of." The accusation hit home because it was true. In trying to protect Noah from Victor's world, she'd made him the perfect weapon against it. "I did what I thought was right." "You did what was easy." Victor's words cut deep. "Running is always easier than fighting, but you don't get to make that choice anymore, Elena. The moment those bullets started flying, the moment they saw our son, the choice was made for you." "So what now?" Elena wrapped her arms around herself. "You keep us prisoner, force us to play house in your fortress? I keep you alive." Victor closed the distance between them, his presence overwhelming in the way it always had been. "I find everyone who knows about Noah, and I end them. Then I find everyone they told, and I end them too. I burn through every network, every contact, every whisper, until the knowledge dies with them. And us? You stay here,
Safe. Protected.
Victor's hand came up to her face again, thumb brushing her cheekbone with heartbreaking tenderness. You let me give our son what you stole from me. Time, moments, the chance to know his father before... He stopped himself. Before what? Before the life I lead catches up with me. Victor's smile was sad. I'm not a good man, Elena. You knew that when you married me. But I would have been a good father. I would have tried. The words broke something in her chest. She'd painted Victor as a monster in her mind for 6 years. Easier to run from a monster than from a complicated man who loved her but lived in darkness. Easier to justify theft when the victim was purely villainous. But the man looking at her now, the man who'd taken bullets meant for them, who'd recognized his son in a heartbeat, who was shattering before her eyes, this man was far more dangerous than any monster. Because this man she could forgive, could understand, could maybe even... No, that way led back to everything she'd escaped. I need to think. Elena pulled away from his touch. I need space. I need... Mama! Noah's delighted shout echoed from somewhere deeper in the house. Come see. There's a pool and a game room, and Maria says there's horses. Victor's expression softened impossibly. Go. Be with our son. Process what needs processing. But, Elena? He waited until she met his eyes. Running ended today. Whatever comes next, we face it together, all 3 of us. As a family. We're not a family. We were. Victor's certainty was absolute. We will be again. I'll make sure of it. The promise in those words terrified her more than any threat ever could. Elena found Noah in a sunroom that overlooked gardens worthy of a palace. He was pressing his face against the glass, breath fogging as he pointed at everything with childish wonder. Mama, look! Real peacocks. Can we keep one? Baby, we're not staying here. Elena knelt beside him, trying to find words that would make sense to a 5-year-old. This is just temporary, until it's safe to go home. But our apartment is small and has roaches. Noah's brutal honesty made her flinch. This place is nice, and that man, Victor, he has the same eyes as me. So he'd noticed. Of course he'd noticed. Noah was brilliant, observant, already asking questions Elena wasn't ready to answer. He does. Is he my daddy? The question landed like a bullet she couldn't dodge. In 5 years, Noah had asked about his father dozens of times. Elena had crafted careful half-truths, stories about a man who'd loved them but couldn't stay. She'd never outright denied Victor's existence, but she'd never confirmed it either. Now faced with those gray eyes, so heartbreakingly identical to the ones that had watched them from across the bakery, she couldn't lie anymore. Yes. The word cracked something open inside her. Yes, baby. He's your daddy. Noah processed this with the seriousness of childhood. Why doesn't he live with us? Because Mama made a mistake. Elena pulled him into her lap, holding tight. A long time ago, Mama got scared and ran away, and I didn't tell your daddy about you because I thought it was safer. But he found us anyway. He did. Are you still scared? Elena looked around the beautiful house, thought about the bullets and the bodies and the man whose world had just exploded with the revelation of a son. Yes, but for different reasons now. I like him. Noah's simple declaration was devastating. He protected us. Like a superhero. He's not a hero, baby. Elena needed him to understand this, even if he was too young to fully grasp it. He's a complicated man who does things that aren't always good, but yes, he protected us. And he'll keep protecting us. Because we're family? Because you're his son. Elena kissed Noah's hair. And he'll do anything for you. Anything at all. The weight of that truth settled between them. Victor Moretti, crime lord and king of the East Coast underworld, had a weakness now. A 5-year-old boy with gray eyes and an innocent heart. Every enemy Victor had ever made would eventually learn this. Would eventually try to use it. She'd been so focused on protecting Noah from Victor's world that she'd never considered what would happen when that world found them anyway. Now they were in the eye of a storm she'd created, and the only shelter available came wrapped in the arms of the man she'd run from. Maria appeared in the doorway, her smile warm but knowing. Dinner will be ready in an hour. Mr. Moretti has requested you join him. There are clothes prepared in your rooms if you'd like to freshen up. We have our own clothes, Elena started, which are in a studio apartment that's already being watched by no fewer than 3 hostile organizations. Victor's voice came from behind Maria. He changed into casual clothes, jeans and a black Henley that reminded Elena painfully of earlier days when he'd been hers, and she'd been naive enough to think love conquered all. He moved into the room with that same predatory grace, but his entire focus was on Noah. "Do you like dinosaurs, Noah?" Noah nodded enthusiastically. "Velociraptors are the best. They hunted in packs and had really big claws. Smart and deadly. Good choice." Victor's smile was genuine, transforming his entire face. "I have something to show you. If your mother says it's okay." Both sets of gray eyes turned to Elena, waiting for permission she didn't want to give but couldn't deny. "Okay, but just for a little while." Victor offered his hand to Noah, and Elena's heart cracked watching her son take it without hesitation. They walked away together, Victor adjusting his stride to match Noah's smaller steps, already listening to her son's enthusiastic chatter about dinosaur facts, with the focus of someone starving for this connection. Maria settled into the chair beside Elena, her expression kind but frank. "That man has torn apart empires. He's destroyed men for looking at him wrong. But the way he looks at that boy, that's something different, something that might save him, or destroy him completely." "I didn't want this for Noah," Elena's voice broke. "Any of this. None of us get to choose the families we're born into." Maria's weathered hand patted Elena's. "But we can choose how we face them. Mr. Moretti is not a good man by most standards, but he's capable of love in ways that terrify him. That boy is his second chance, and you—" She looked at Elena shrewdly. "You're the woman who gave him something he thought was impossible. He'll move heaven and earth to keep you both. The question is whether you'll let him." Elena didn't have an answer, couldn't formulate one that made sense when her entire world had detonated in a bakery 6 hours ago. Through the window, she watched Victor and Noah in the garden. Her son was gesturing wildly, explaining something with the passion only children possess. Victor was crouched down to his level, giving him absolute attention, nodding seriously at whatever earth-shattering revelation a 5-year-old considered important. For just a moment, they looked like what they were, father and son, finding each other despite the years and lies and violence between them. And Elena realized with dawning horror that the biggest threat to her carefully constructed life wasn't Victor's enemies, or his violence, or his world of darkness. It was the possibility that Noah would love his father, would choose this life, would become exactly what Elena had spent 6 years protecting him from. Because watching them together, seeing Noah's delighted grin and Victor's tender devastation, Elena understood a fundamental truth. Victor wouldn't just protect their son. He would claim him, would shape him, would give him everything Elena never could: power, security, a legacy written in blood and fear. And Noah, with his brilliant mind and those dangerous gray eyes, might embrace it all. The thought terrified her more than any ambush ever could, because you could run from bullets, you could hide from enemies. But how did you protect your child from destiny? How did you save him from becoming his father's son? Dinner that evening was surreal in ways Elena couldn't have predicted. The formal dining room could have seated 20, but Victor had insisted on the smaller table by the windows, intimate and oddly domestic, despite the armed guards visible in the garden beyond. Noah sat between them in a booster seat that had appeared from nowhere, chattering between bites of chicken that Maria had prepared without seasoning, somehow knowing without being told that a 5-year-old wouldn't appreciate the rosemary and garlic that graced the adult portions. And then the T-Rex tried to eat the Triceratops, but the Triceratops had really big horns, and he was like, "No way." And they fought, and Noah gestured wildly with his fork, nearly launching a piece of broccoli across the table. "Easy, champion." Victor caught Noah's hand gently, redirecting it back to his plate. "The dinosaurs will still be there after you swallow." Elena watched this interaction with her stomach in knots. Victor moved with Noah like he'd been doing it for years instead of hours. The gentle corrections, the attentive listening, the way he cut Noah's chicken into smaller pieces without being asked. It all came naturally to a man who'd never known he had a son until this morning. "You're good at this," she said quietly, the words escaping before she could stop them. Victor's eyes met hers across the table, something raw and honest flickering in their depths. "I've had 6 years to imagine it, every version, every possibility." His jaw tightened. "I just never thought the first time I'd feed my son dinner would be the same day I learned he existed." The accusation was soft, but it landed hard. Elena looked away, focusing on her own plate where food had turned to ash in her mouth. "Mama says you're my daddy." Noah's pronouncement cut through the tension with childish directness.
Are you going to live with us now? Victor's expression transformed, hope and longing so naked it hurt to witness. Would you like that?
Yeah, then Mama wouldn't be sad anymore. Noah returned to his dinner, unaware of the bomb he'd just detonated. She cries at night sometimes. She thinks I don't hear, but I do. Elena's throat closed. She'd been so careful, so quiet. Apparently not quiet enough. Does she? Victor's voice had gone dangerously soft. His eyes found Elena's again, seeing too much, understanding things she'd never wanted him to know. Why do you think she's sad, Noah? 'Cause we don't have a daddy. All the other kids at school have daddies who pick them up and come to stuff, but Mama always comes alone. Noah shrugged with 5-year-old wisdom. I asked Santa for a daddy last Christmas, but I got a dinosaur book instead. It was still pretty good, though. The silence that followed was deafening. Victor's hand had gone white-knuckled around his fork. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. You have a daddy now, Noah, and I'm going to every single thing, every school play, every birthday, every moment I can. His eyes never left Elena's. I'm going to make up for every second I missed. I promise you that. Even T-ball? I'm going to start T-ball in spring. Especially T-ball. Victor's smile was fierce. I'll teach you myself. We'll practice every day if you want. Victor, Elena tried to interrupt to slow this runaway train before Noah's heart got invested in promises that might shatter. Can I be excused? Noah was already sliding from his seat, attention span exhausted by adult conversation. Maria said there's ice cream. May I? Elena corrected automatically. May I be excused? Victor nodded, his gaze still locked on Elena. Go ahead, champion. Tell Maria I said you can have 2 scoops. Noah's delighted cheer echoed as he raced toward the kitchen, leaving his parents in brittle silence. You can't promise him things like that. Elena's words came out sharper than intended. You can't just... Can't what? Be his father? Victor stood, moving around the table with predatory focus. Can't give him what every child deserves? Can't try to be present in his life? Can't make promises you won't keep. Elena stood too, refusing to be cornered. Your life, your world, it doesn't leave room for t-ball games and school plays. Then I'll make room. Victor stopped close enough that she could feel his heat, see the flecks of silver in those storm-gray eyes. I'll burn down everything that stands between me and my son. I'll restructure my entire operation if that's what it takes. People like you don't change. People like me? Victor's laugh was bitter. You mean people who built empires from nothing? People who control half the eastern seaboard? People who just discovered the one thing they actually give a damn about protecting? People who kill for a living? Elena held her ground. People whose enemies shoot up bakeries? People whose children become targets just by existing? He's already a target. Victor's hands came up to frame her face, the touch achingly familiar. The moment you walked into that bakery with him, the moment someone recognized those eyes, he became the biggest vulnerability I have. Every enemy I've ever made now has a weapon against me. The only question is whether I protect him from my world or whether I teach him to survive it. I won't let you turn him into you. I'm not asking for your permission. The words were gentle but absolute. I'm telling you how this ends. Noah is my son, my heir, my legacy, and I will give him every advantage, every protection, every opportunity my resources can provide. You can fight me on this, Elena. You can hate me for it, but you can't stop it. I can leave. Where? Victor's thumbs brushed her cheekbones, the gesture tender despite his words. Where can you go that I won't find you? Where can you hide that my enemies won't eventually track down? You had 6 years of invisibility because I was looking for the wrong thing. That grace period is over. Elena knew he was right, hated that he was right. The life she'd built on caution and poverty had crumbled the moment those bullets started flying. There was no apartment to return to, no minimum wage job that would keep them safe, no amount of running that would erase the knowledge that Victor Moretti had a son. So what do you want from me? Her voice cracked. Total surrender? Just accept that you own us now? I want you to stop running. Victor's forehead pressed against hers, his breath warm against her lips. I want you to let me protect our family. I want the chance to be what I should have been 6 years ago, a husband, a father, a man worthy of the woman who actually made me feel something other than emptiness. You are suffocating me. I was terrified of losing you.
Victor's confession came raw and honest. Every day you loved me felt like borrowed time. You were light and goodness in a world of darkness. And I held on too tight because I always knew, that eventually you'd see what I really was and leave. So I proved you right. You proved that I failed you. Victor pulled back enough to meet her eyes. I should have given you space, should have let you breathe, should have been the man you needed instead of the man I was. But I can't change the past, Elena. I can only promise that this time, if you give me this chance, I'll be different. People don't change. People change when they have a reason to. Victor's smile was sad. Noah is my reason. You always were. I just didn't know how to show it without smothering you. A crash from the kitchen interrupted whatever Elena might have said. Both of them moved instantly, Victor's hand going to the weapon she hadn't seen him draw, Elena's body already angling toward the sound of her child. They found Noah in the kitchen, covered in chocolate ice cream, with Maria laughing as she cleaned up the remnants of a dropped bowl. I'm sorry, it slipped. Noah's face was a mask of guilt and chocolate. The tension bled from Victor's shoulders. He holstered the weapon. When had he even pulled it? And crossed to where Noah stood frozen, clearly expecting punishment. Accidents happen, champion. Victor grabbed a towel, kneeling to wipe chocolate from Noah's face with surprising gentleness. No harm done. Want me to get you another bowl? Noah's shock was visible. You're not mad. Mad? It's ice cream, not the end of the world. Victor's confusion was genuine. Why would I be mad? Because I made a mess, and messes are bad, and Noah's words tumbled over each other, and Elena's heart broke a little because she knew exactly where that anxiety came from. Years of scraping by, of counting every penny, of teaching Noah that waste was something they couldn't afford. Hey. Victor caught Noah's chin gently, forcing eye contact. Listen to me. Messes happen. Mistakes happen. And in this house, we clean them up and move on. You don't have to be perfect, Noah. You just have to try your best. Understand? Noah nodded slowly, processing this new reality where breaking things didn't mean catastrophe. Good. Victor stood, ruffled Noah's hair, then turned to Maria. Get him cleaned up and ready for bed? I think it's been a long day for everyone. Of course. Maria's smile was knowing as she guided Noah toward the hallway. Come on, young man, let's find you some pajamas that actually fit. Alone again with Victor in the massive kitchen, Elena felt the walls closing in. You're trying to buy him. I'm trying to give him a childhood. Victor's response was sharp. I'm trying to make sure he doesn't grow up thinking that dropping ice cream is some catastrophic failure worthy of punishment. I'm trying to show him that mistakes don't mean the end of love or security or safety. By throwing money at him? By giving him everything he wants? By giving him what every child deserves, the freedom to be imperfect without fear. Victor moved closer, his intensity focused entirely on her. That fear in his eyes when he thought I'd be angry? That came from somewhere, Elena. That came from years of scarcity and stress and trying to be invisible. The accusation hit home because it was true. She'd given Noah love, but she'd also given him her anxiety, her constant vigilance, her terror of being found. I did the best I could. I know you did. Victor's voice softened. I know you sacrificed everything to protect him. But Elena, he shouldn't have had to learn that ice cream is a luxury, that mistakes are unforgivable, that his existence needs to be small and quiet and hidden. He's 5 years old. He should be loud and messy and completely convinced the world revolves around him. Like you? Like me at 5, before I learned that survival meant silence. Victor's smile was sharp and sad. I grew up in a world where noise got you noticed and noticed got you hurt. I won't let Noah learn those lessons. I won't let him grow up the way I did, hungry for safety, terrified of taking up space, convinced that love is conditional on perfect behavior. Elena saw it then, the thing Victor had kept hidden beneath layers of control and violence and power. The scared child who'd built an empire as armor against a world that had hurt him. The man who saw his own fears reflected in his son's eyes and was terrified of perpetuating that cycle. He's happy, she said quietly. Maybe anxious, maybe too careful, but he's happy. He has love and safety, and you. Victor's hand found hers, fingers tangling together like they had 1,000 times before. You gave him you, and that's everything. But Elena, he could have both. Your love and my protection, your gentleness and my strength. He could have parents who actually want him, who fight for him, who give him the world instead of teaching him to hide from it. Together?
Together. Victor pulled her closer, his other hand settling at her waist. Not like before, not me suffocating you, making you feel trapped. But partners. Co-parents at minimum. Maybe more, if you're willing. I can't just forget. I'm not asking you to forget. Victor's forehead touched hers again, that gesture of intimacy that used to undo her completely. I'm asking you to consider that maybe we both made mistakes. Maybe I held too tight and you ran too fast. Maybe there's a middle ground where we both do better. For Noah? For all of us. Victor's breath ghosted across her lips, close enough to kiss but waiting for permission. I miss you, Elena. I missed you every single day. And seeing you again, seeing what we made together, it's like being shown everything I lost and everything I could have had in the same breath. Elena's resolve was cracking, 6 years of carefully maintained distance eroding under the weight of Victor's presence. He still smelled the same, expensive cologne and something darker, something that had always made her pulse race. His touch still set her skin on fire. His voice still did things to her that she'd convinced herself were gone. I can't trust you. The words came out broken. You're asking me to trust you with our son, with our lives, and I can't. Then let me earn it. Victor's lips brushed her temple, feather-light and devastating. Stay. Give me time to prove I'm different. Let me show you that I can be the man you need instead of the man I was. And if you can't, then I'll let you go. The lie was obvious in his voice. I'll set you up somewhere safe, somewhere my enemies can't reach, and I'll visit Noah on weekends like every other divorced father. You're lying. Yes. Victor's honesty was brutal. I'm lying. I won't let you go again, Elena. I can't. But I will try. I swear I will try. To be less of a cage and more of a home. I'll give you freedom within these walls. I'll respect your boundaries. I'll be the partner you needed instead of the warden I became. Before Elena could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The sound was jarring in the quiet kitchen, reality intruding on the bubble they'd created. She pulled away from Victor's embrace to check it. The text was from her landlord. Police were here. Your apartment's a crime scene. Don't come back. Her stomach dropped. What did you do? Victor's expression went carefully neutral. I secured the perimeter. My apartment was already compromised. Victor took the phone from her nerveless fingers, read the message, then handed it back. I told you, 3 hostile organizations had eyes on it within hours of the bakery incident. I sent a team to clear it out before they could plant surveillance or worse. A team. 6 men, professional, discreet. Victor's tone was matter-of-fact. They retrieved anything personal. Photos, documents, Noah's toys. Everything's being brought here. The rest was just furniture from Goodwill, not worth saving. You had no right. I had every right. Victor's calm was infuriating. That apartment was a trap waiting to spring. Going back there would have gotten you killed, probably gotten Noah taken. I eliminated the threat. That's what I do. You destroyed my life. I saved your life. Victor caught her shoulders when she tried to turn away. Elena, listen to me. In the 6 hours since that ambush, I've had my people tracking every thread. The men who attacked the bakery? They were Marchese family, third-tier mob trying to make a move on my territory. They saw you with me, ran your face through their databases, found nothing. Then they started asking questions. Elena's blood ran cold. Questions about what? About who you were. Why you were with me. Whether you were leverage they could use. Victor's grip tightened. By the time my team cleared your apartment, they'd already sent scouts. One was in the hallway taking photos of your door. Another was bribing your landlord for information. They could have, but they would have. Victor's bluntness left no room for denial. By tomorrow morning, they would have grabbed Noah on his way to kindergarten. They would have used him to control me. And when I didn't cooperate, because I never would have known he existed, they would have killed him to make a point. The scenario was too real, too immediate. Elena felt her knees weaken. Victor caught her, guided her to a chair, knelt before her with his hands on her knees. This is the world I live in, Elena. This is what I protect against every single day. People who see children as collateral. People who wouldn't hesitate to hurt a 5-year-old to gain advantage. And now, because of Noah, because of you, I have the one vulnerability I swore I'd never have. Then why are you happy about it? The question burst out of her. Why are you acting like this is a gift when it's clearly a nightmare? Victor's smile was complicated, joy and terror in equal measure. Because he's mine.
Because despite everything, despite the danger and the complications and the fact that you hate me for it, I have a son. I have you back, even if you don't want to be here. I have a family. A reason to keep fighting that's bigger than empire or revenge or any of the hollow victories that used to sustain me. You're insane. Probably. Victor's thumb brushed her knee. But I'm insane with purpose now. Every decision I make, every move I execute, every enemy I eliminate, it's all for him. For both of you. To build a world where Noah can be safe, can be happy, can grow up without fear. By teaching him to be you. By teaching him to be better than me. Victor's correction was firm. I'm not raising an heir to my empire. I'm raising a boy who'll have choices I never did. He can be whatever he wants. Doctor, teacher, artist. As long as he's protected, as long as he's loved, as long as he knows his worth isn't measured in violence or power. Elena wanted to believe him. Wanted to trust that the man kneeling before her could somehow separate his son from the darkness he inhabited. But she'd seen too much, knew too well how that world consumed everything it touched. He'll still grow up surrounded by this. She gestured at the enormous house, the visible guards, the evidence of wealth built on suffering. He'll still learn that rules don't apply to us, that power solves problems, that people are disposable. Then teach him different. Victor's challenge was direct. Stay. Be his moral compass. Show him the gentleness and empathy I can't. Make sure he grows up knowing both sides, the protection I can offer and the compassion you embody. Together, we give him balance. Or we tear him apart trying to make him choose. We don't make him choose anything. Victor stood, pulled Elena to her feet with him. We love him. We protect him. We give him the tools to navigate this world without being destroyed by it. And when he's old enough, we trust him to forge his own path. Footsteps on the stairs announced Noah's return, freshly bathed and wearing pajamas that actually fit. New purchases, Elena realized with a pang. Victor had already been preparing for this, already buying clothes and car seats and everything a child might need. Mama, my room has glow-in-the-dark stars! Noah launched himself at Elena, still vibrating with the energy of new discoveries. And there's a big bed and a bookshelf, and Maria says tomorrow we can get whatever books I want. Elena caught him, buried her face in his clean hair, breathed in the scent of her child. That sounds wonderful, baby. Will you tuck me in? Noah pulled back to look at her seriously. In the new room? Of course. Can Victor come too? The request was so hopeful, so innocent, it broke something in Elena's chest. He promised to tell me about the horses. Elena's eyes met Victor's over Noah's head. She saw the naked longing there, the desperate hope that she'd allow this small intimacy, this tiny step towards something that might resemble family. If he wants to. I want to. Victor's voice was rough with emotion. I'd like nothing more, champion. The three of them climbed the stairs together, Noah between them chattering about everything he'd discovered in his short time in this new world. The East Wing bedroom prepared for him was indeed perfect for a child, not overly ornate, just comfortable and welcoming with those promised glow stars scattered across the ceiling. Elena tucked Noah in while Victor stood in the doorway, watching with an expression she couldn't quite read. When she finished, she expected Victor to take his turn, but instead he remained still. Victor promised horses, Noah prompted sleepily. I promised to tell you about them. Victor moved to the other side of the bed, settling into a chair that someone had placed there. There are 3 horses in the stable. Midnight is a black gelding, very gentle. Aurora is a mare who thinks she's in charge. And Comet is young, still learning, kind of like you. Can I ride them? When you're ready, we'll start with lessons. Make sure you know how to be safe around them. Victor's hand hovered over Noah's for a moment before settling gently on the small fingers. Animals can sense fear and kindness. You have to approach them with confidence and respect. Like people? Victor's surprised laugh was genuine. Exactly like people. You're a smart kid, you know that? Mama says I get it from her. Noah's words were slurring with sleep. But I have your eyes. You do. Victor's voice dropped to something tender and awed. You have my eyes and your mother's heart. Best of both worlds. Noah's breathing evened out, sleep claiming him with the suddenness of childhood. But Victor didn't move, didn't release his son's hand, just sat there watching Noah sleep like he was witnessing a miracle. Elena stood frozen by the door, watching this man she'd fled transform into someone she barely recognized.
The Victor she'd known had been all hard edges and controlled violence. This version, gentle with their sleeping child, voice rough with barely contained emotion, was dangerously close to the man she'd fallen in love with before she'd learned what he really was. "We should go." Her whisper broke the spell. "Let him sleep." Victor stood reluctantly, bent to press a kiss to Noah's forehead with reverent gentleness, then followed Elena into the hallway. She led him to her own assigned room, connected to Noah's by a door that could lock from her side, she noted, and stopped at the threshold. "Thank you." The words cost her. "For today. For protecting us. For—" she gestured vaguely. "Everything." "You don't have to thank me for protecting my family." Victor leaned against the doorframe, close but not crowding. "That's not optional. That's not conditional. That's just what happens now. I'm still angry with you. I know. And I don't forgive you for how you were before. I don't forgive myself either." Victor's admission was quiet. "I was a different man then. Harder. More afraid. I thought control meant safety, and possession meant security. I was wrong. And now? Now I know that love means letting go even when it terrifies you." Victor's hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone in that familiar gesture. "Now I know that the tighter I hold, the faster you'll run. So I'm trying. I'm trying to be what you need. A partner, not a prison. A choice, not a cage." Pretty words. True words. Victor's smile was sad. "I know I can't make you love me again, Elena. I know I burned that bridge when I became more obsessed with keeping you than understanding you. But maybe I can earn your trust. Maybe I can prove that this time I'm putting you and Noah first. Before empire, before pride, before everything." Elena should pull away, should establish boundaries, should make it clear that whatever they'd had was dead and buried under 6 years of distance and deception. Instead, she found herself leaning into his touch, starved for comfort after the longest day of her life. "I'm scared." The confession escaped before she could stop it. "I'm scared of this world, of what it'll do to Noah, of what happens when your enemies realize he exists. I'm scared of you and what you make me feel. I'm scared of staying and terrified of leaving. I'm scared." "I know, baby. I know." Victor pulled her into his arms, and Elena let him because she was tired of being strong alone. "But you don't have to be scared by yourself anymore. Let me carry some of it. Let me be the one who watches the shadows while you sleep. Let me protect what I should have protected all along." Elena stood in his embrace, breathing in his scent, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. This was dangerous. This was exactly how she'd gotten trapped before, by his strength, his certainty, his ability to make her feel safe even while he built cages around her. But tonight, after bullets and blood and seeing Noah's joy at finally having a father, she was too exhausted to fight. "Just tonight," she whispered. "Tomorrow we figure out rules and boundaries and how this works. But tonight you rest." Victor's lips pressed to her temple. "And I'll make sure nothing touches you, I promise." He guided her to the bed, pulled back the covers with surprising domesticity, waited while she climbed in fully clothed because undressing felt too intimate, too much like surrender. "Sleep, Elena. I'll be right outside your door." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Victor's smile was gentle. "Because until I eliminate every threat, until I'm certain you're safe, I'm not letting you out of my sight. Get used to having a shadow, baby. I'm not going anywhere." He left her there in the darkness, but Elena could see his silhouette through the slightly open door, settling into a chair in the hallway between her room and Noah's, standing guard, keeping watch, becoming the protector he'd always claimed to be but had never quite achieved. And despite everything, despite her fear and anger and the complexity of emotions tangling in her chest, Elena felt herself relax for the first time in 6 years. Because whatever else Victor Moretti was, whatever darkness he carried, one truth remained absolute: he would die before he let anything hurt their son. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to build on. For now. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the sound of her son's laughter drifting up from somewhere below. For a disoriented moment, she forgot where she was, forgot the bullets and the blood, and the man who'd reclaimed them both in a single devastating day. Then reality crashed back with the weight of everything that had changed. She found Victor's chair empty in the hallway, a folded blanket the only evidence he'd kept his vigil. The clock on the nightstand read 9:30, shockingly late for a woman who usually woke at dawn to maximize every minute before work. Except there was no work anymore. No apartment, No carefully constructed life of invisibility and survival. Just this, Victor's fortress and all the complicated promises that came with it. Elena followed Noah's voice downstairs, through hallways that seemed less intimidating in morning light. She found her son in the kitchen with Maria, standing on a step stool while he helped crack eggs into a bowl. He was covered in flour and completely delighted. "Mama, I'm making pancakes, real ones, not the frozen kind." Noah's grin was incandescent. "Maria says I'm a natural." "That boy has gentle hands," Maria confirmed, expertly guiding Noah through whisking the batter. Chef's hands, like his father. The casual mention of Victor as Noah's father still hit like a punch. Elena was saved from responding by Victor's entrance through the side door, dressed in running clothes and gleaming with sweat. He stopped when he saw her, something vulnerable flickering across his face before the usual control reasserted itself. "You slept." It wasn't a question. "Good. You needed it. Where were you?" "Perimeter check, then 5 miles to clear my head." Victor grabbed a towel, wiped his face. "There are things we need to discuss. After breakfast." The words carried weight that made Elena's stomach clench. "What things?" "Later." Victor's eyes cut to Noah, a clear message that whatever needed saying wasn't for small ears. "First, I believe our son promised to make me try his pancakes." Noah beamed at the word "our," soaking up the possessive claim like sunlight. "I made chocolate chip ones special for you. Maria said they're your favorite." "She's right." Victor moved to the sink, washed his hands with deliberate care. "When I was about your age, chocolate chip pancakes were the only thing I'd eat on Sundays." "Did your daddy make them for you?" The question landed in sudden silence. Victor's hand stilled under the water, his shoulders going rigid. When he spoke, his voice carried carefully controlled emotion. "No, champion, my father wasn't around much, but my grandmother, she made them every week without fail. Best pancakes I've ever had." "Is she still alive, your grandma?" "No." Victor shut off the water, dried his hands with meticulous attention. "She died a long time ago. But I remember her pancakes, and now I get to eat yours, which makes me pretty lucky." Noah processed this with the seriousness of childhood, then returned his attention to the batter. "Mama's mom died too, before I was born. That's why it's just us." Elena's throat tightened. She'd told Noah the simplified version. Her parents gone, no siblings, just the two of them against the world. She'd never mentioned Victor's family because she'd been trying to erase him from their story entirely. "Well, it's not just the two of you anymore." Victor's eyes found Elena's, holding her gaze with quiet intensity. "You have me now. And Maria. And everyone in this house who would die before they let anything hurt you." The casual mention of dying for them should have been horrifying. Instead, it settled over Elena like a strange comfort. The certainty that Victor meant every word, that his protection was absolute even if his methods were brutal. Breakfast was surprisingly normal despite the armed guards visible through the windows and the bulletproof glass that separated them from the world. Noah chattered between bites, asking Victor endless questions about horses and dinosaurs, and whether he could get a dog. Victor answered each one with patient attention, making promises Elena knew he'd keep because that was who he was, a man whose word was law, even to a 5-year-old. When Noah finally wound down, Maria whisked him away to get dressed, leaving Elena alone with Victor at the table. The easy domesticity evaporated, replaced by tension that crackled between them. "Tell me." Elena set down her coffee. "What do we need to discuss?" Victor's expression went carefully neutral. "The Marchese family made their move official last night. They've declared open season on anyone connected to me, with a particular bounty on new acquisitions." "Meaning us." "Meaning you and Noah, yes." Victor's jaw tightened. $500,000 for information leading to your location. Double that for actual acquisition. The numbers were staggering. $1 million is nothing compared to what they think they can gain by controlling my son. Victor's voice went hard. "They're not the only ones. The Costellos are sniffing around. The Russians are asking questions. Every 2-bit crew that's ever wanted a piece of my territory is suddenly very interested in the mysterious woman and child who disappeared from a crime scene." Elena felt the walls closing in. "How long until they find us?" "They won't." Victor's certainty was absolute. This estate is a fortress. 12-man security rotation, surveillance that covers every inch of the property, facial recognition at every entrance. They'd need a small army to get through, and even then they wouldn't make it past the gates.
So we're prisoners. You're protected. Victor's correction was sharp. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Elena stood, paced to the window. You're asking us to live in a cage. I'm asking you to stay alive while I handle the threats. Victor followed her, his presence overwhelming even when he kept careful distance. 1 week, maybe 2.
I dismantle the Marchese operation, make an example that discourages the others, and then you have breathing room. And how exactly do you dismantle them? Victor's smile was winter and razor wire. You don't want those details. Don't I? Elena turned to face him. You're asking me to trust you with our son's life while you wage war. I think I deserve to know what that war looks like. The silence stretched between them, heavy with things Victor clearly didn't want to say. Finally, he spoke with brutal honesty. I identify every Marchese lieutenant, every soldier, every business interest. I hit them simultaneously, their operations, their income streams, their safe houses. I make it hurt so badly that they either surrender or scatter. The ones who choose violence instead of sense, I eliminate. Permanently. You mean murder? I mean protection. Victor's eyes were chips of granite. These aren't innocent people, Elena. These are men who put a bounty on a 5-year-old child. Men who would torture you for information, who would use Noah as leverage, who would kill you both the moment you stopped being useful. I'm not losing sleep over removing them from the equation. Elena knew she should be horrified, should reject this version of justice that came wrapped in violence and death. But she kept seeing the bakery, kept remembering bullets punching through walls where Noah had been standing seconds before. How many people will die? As many as necessary. Victor's bluntness left no room for comfort. I won't apologize for protecting my family. I won't pretend there's a gentle way to handle this. But I will promise you this. Every person who dies knew the risks. They chose this world. They chose to threaten what's mine. And they'll pay the price for that choice. And Noah? What does he learn while you're out there killing people in his name? He learns that his father keeps him safe. Victor moved closer, his intensity focused entirely on her. He learns that there are consequences for threatening innocence. He learns that sometimes the world is dark and brutal, but there are people willing to stand between him and that darkness. He learns that violence solves problems. 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 He learns that violence solves problems.
He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems. He learns that violence solves problems, that violence is sometimes necessary to prevent greater violence. Victor's hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. I'm not teaching him to be me, Elena.
I'm showing him that he never has to be afraid, never has to feel powerless, never has to wonder if someone will protect him when things get bad. Because I will, always, without hesitation or mercy. The conviction in his voice was terrifying and seductive in equal measure. Elena wanted to pull away, to reject this worldview where death was justified by protection. But she'd already made her choice the moment she'd let Victor's men pull her into that SUV. She'd chosen his protection over principle, safety over morality. When do you leave? Tonight. Victor's thumb brushed her cheekbone. I'll be gone 3 days, maybe 4. Marco will be head of security in my absence. He's good, competent, and loyal. You'll be safe. And if something happens to you? Victor's smile was complicated. I've updated my will. Everything goes to Noah, held in trust until he's 25. You're named executor and primary guardian. The house, the legitimate businesses, the offshore accounts, all of it becomes his. And yours by extension. I don't want your money. You'll take it if I die. Victor's interruption was gentle but firm. Because our son deserves every advantage, every opportunity, every protection my resources can provide. You'll take it and you'll use it to give him the life you wanted, the normal one, away from this world. I've made arrangements, new identities, offshore accounts that can't be traced. You could disappear so completely that even my enemies would never find you. The thought of Victor dying, of raising Noah alone with only blood money and false names for company, made Elena's chest tighten. Don't talk like that. I have to. Victor pressed his forehead to hers. Because this is the reality. I'm walking into a war tonight, and while I'm very good at what I do, I'm not invincible. You need to know what happens if I don't come back. You'll come back. Elena's hands fisted in his shirt without conscious thought. You have to come back. Noah just found you. He can't lose you already. And you? Victor's question was barely a whisper. Would you miss me, Elena? Or would my death just be convenient? Freedom without having to run again? The question deserved honesty. I don't know. I'm so angry at you for what you were, so grateful for what you're being, so scared of what you're becoming. I don't know how to feel about you anymore. That's fair. Victor's acceptance was sad, but real. I don't know how to feel about me either. I'm a man who built everything on violence, trying to be gentle for a 5-year-old who looks at me like I hung the moon. I'm a killer trying to be a father, a monster trying to be worth loving. You're not a monster. I am. Victor's correction was absolute. I've done things that would make you sick. I've hurt people, Elena, not just in self-defense or protection. I've tortured for information. I've killed to make points. I've built an empire on suffering and fear. That doesn't just wash away because I have a son now. Then why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you're tied to. Victor pulled back enough to meet her eyes. Because if you're going to choose to stay, and it has to be a choice, Elena, not coercion, then you need to understand what that means. I'm trying to be better. For Noah, for you, for whatever version of myself I can salvage from the wreckage. But I can't erase what I am. I can only promise to try to be more than that. Elena saw the truth in his eyes, the self-awareness that made him more dangerous than simple brutality ever could. Victor knew exactly what he was. He just hoped it might not be all he was. Noah's getting attached to you. She changed the subject because she couldn't process this much honesty. He asked me last night if you were staying forever. What did you tell him? I said I didn't know. Elena's voice cracked. Because I don't. I don't know if you'll survive the next few days. I don't know if we'll survive this world you've pulled us into. I don't know if we're building something real or just delaying the inevitable disaster. Then let's find out together. Victor's hand slid from her face to her shoulders, holding her steady. Let me go handle this threat. Let me come back alive. And then we'll figure out what comes next, all 3 of us, as a family. Even if that family looks different than traditional. Even if it's messy and complicated and built on compromise instead of perfection. And if you don't come back, then you take Noah and you run. Victor's smile was bittersweet. You use every resource I've left you, and you give our son the life I can't. You tell him his father loved him more than anything. You let him grow up safe and normal and completely removed from this darkness. Promise me, Elena, if I die, you don't stay and fight. You just run. The promise lodged in her throat, but she forced it out. I promise. Good. Victor pulled her into an embrace that felt like goodbye. Take care of our boy while I'm gone. Let him be a kid. Let him be loud and messy and completely convinced the world revolves around him. Give him the childhood I can't. Elena clung to him, breathing in his scent, memorizing the feel of his arms around her. Tomorrow he'd be gone, walking into violence with the casual certainty of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. And she'd be here, waiting and wondering if Noah's father would come home or if they'd be building a life on the foundation of his grave. They stayed like that until Noah's running footsteps announced his return. Victor released Elena just as their son barreled into the kitchen, now dressed in new clothes that actually fit. Maria says we can visit the horses now. Can we? Please? Noah bounced with barely contained energy. Victor's entire demeanor shifted, the brutal crime lord disappearing behind the gentle father. Absolutely, let's go meet them properly. He offered his hand to Noah, who took it without hesitation, then extended his other hand to Elena. Join us? Elena looked at the offered hand, at the man who held it, at the son who represented everything good between them despite everything dark. She could refuse, could maintain distance, could protect herself from getting invested in this fragile thing they were building. Instead, she took his hand. The three of them walked out into morning sunshine, a family held together by biology and threat, and something that might become love if they were given enough time. The horses waited in their stable, and Noah's delighted squeals echoed across the estate as Victor lifted him up to pet Midnight's velvet nose. Elena watched her son transform, no longer the quiet, careful child who'd learned to make himself small. Here, he was loud and confident, completely secure in the knowledge that his father would catch him if he fell. The change was beautiful and terrifying because she could see Noah getting attached, could see him building a future that included this man, this place, this dangerous new world. When Noah ran ahead to see Aurora, Victor caught Elena's hand again. I know you're scared. I know this is too much, too fast, but watch him, Elena. Watch how he's already becoming more than he was. That's what I can give him. The freedom to be fully himself without fear. Until your enemies take it all away. They won't. Victor's promise was steel and conviction. I won't let them. I'll burn down everything that threatens him. I'll destroy anyone who even thinks about using him. And when the dust settles, when the threats are eliminated, Noah will have a father who moved heaven and hell to keep him safe. Or he'll have a mother who has to explain why his father died being a monster. Then make sure he knows I died being his monster. Victor's smile was sharp, being the thing that stood between him and a world that would devour him whole. I can live with that legacy. They spent the morning with the horses, Victor teaching Noah how to approach them, how to read their body language, how to be confident without being aggressive. Elena watched this crash course in Victor's worldview, strength tempered by awareness, power balanced with respect, the understanding that force should be a last resort, but an absolute one when necessary. By lunch, Noah was exhausted and happy, chattering about everything he'd learned. Maria took him for a nap despite his protests that he wasn't tired, leaving Elena and Victor alone in the study where he'd spent the afternoon making calls and issuing orders in rapid Italian. It's done. Victor's voice carried the weight of decisions made. The operations start at midnight. By this time tomorrow, the Marchese family will be crippled. By the end of the week, they'll be history. How many people, Victor? Elena needed to know. How many people are going to die because they saw us in a bakery? Everyone who made the choice to pursue it. Victor's honesty was brutal. The soldiers who accepted the contract, the lieutenants who authorized it, the underboss who thought threatening my family was a viable strategy, they're all complicit. They all die. And the ones who had no choice, the wives, the children, the people caught in the crossfire, there won't be crossfire. Victor's certainty was absolute. I don't kill civilians, Elena. I don't hurt innocents. Every target has been vetted. Every operation planned to minimize collateral damage. This is surgical, not scorched earth. You really believe that makes it better? I believe it makes it necessary. Victor moved to pour himself a drink, offered her one. She shook her head. I believe that men who choose violence as profession accept the consequences. I believe that protecting my son is worth any price,
including the lives of people who would destroy him without hesitation. Elena accepted the harsh logic because what choice did she have? When do you leave? 6 hours. I'll say goodbye to Noah before I go, but I won't tell him where or why. As far as he knows, I have business meetings. Victor's expression softened. I don't want him scared. I don't want him waiting and worrying. I want him to just be a kid while I'm gone. He'll ask about you. Then tell him I'll be back soon. Tell him I'm thinking about him. Tell him, Victor's voice cracked. Tell him his father loves him more than anything in this world. Tell him I'm doing this so he can sleep without fear. The raw emotion in Victor's voice undid something in Elena's carefully maintained distance. She crossed to him, took the drink from his hand, set it aside. Come back alive. Whatever you have to do, whoever you have to kill, just come back alive. Noah needs his father. And you? Victor's hand settled at her waist. What do you need, Elena? The honest answer terrified her. I need you to stop making me feel things I swore I'd never feel again. I need you to stop being gentle and complicated, and exactly what I wanted you to be 6 years ago. I need you to be the monster so I can hate you without guilt. Sorry to disappoint. Victor's smile was sad. But that monster learned something in 6 years of searching for you. He learned that control isn't love, possession isn't partnership, and cages kill the things you're trying to protect. I can't go back to being what I was, not after seeing what it cost me. You really think you can change? That you can be this soft, gentle father while also being a man who orders executions? I don't know. Victor's honesty was devastating. But I'm going to try. For him. For you. For whatever version of us might exist if I can prove I'm worth the risk. Elena should push him away. Should maintain boundaries. Should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak of loving a man who lived in darkness. Instead, she pulled him closer, pressed her face to his chest, let him hold her the way he had years ago when the world was simpler and she'd been naive enough to think love conquered all. Don't die. The words muffled against his shirt. Don't you dare die and leave me to explain to our son why his father's dead. I won't. Victor's arms tightened around her. I have too much to live for now, too much to lose. I'll be careful. I'll be smart. And I'll come back to both of you. They stood like that until Marco knocked, announcing preparations were complete. Victor released Elena reluctantly, his hands lingering like he was memorizing her. 3 days. He made it a promise. 4 at most. Then I'm back and we figure out what comes next. What if? No what ifs. Victor's finger pressed to her lips. Just trust that I know what I'm doing. Trust that I've survived worse odds. Trust that I have everything to fight for now. He left her in the study, went upstairs to say goodbye to Noah, who was just waking from his nap. Elena heard their voices, Victor's deep rumble and Noah's excited chatter, and felt her heart clench with the impossibility of everything they were trying to build. When Victor emerged 20 minutes later, his expression was carefully controlled, but his eyes carried the weight of a father leaving his child. He paused at the top of the stairs, looked down to where Elena waited. If something happens, if things go wrong, Marco has instructions. He'll get you out. New identities, new location, everything you need. Don't argue, don't wait, just run. Promise me. I already promised. Promise again. Victor descended the stairs with lethal grace. Promise you'll save yourself and Noah if this goes bad. I promise. The lie tasted like ash because they both knew she'd wait, would hope, would give him every possible second to come home before she ran. Victor knew it too. His smile acknowledged the deception even as he accepted it. You're a terrible liar. Always were. He pulled her into one final embrace, his lips brushing her temple. I love you, Elena. Never stopped. Never will. Whatever happens in the next few days, know that everything I do is for you and our son. Then he was gone, disappearing into the night with 6 men who moved like shadows. Elena stood at the window watching the SUVs pull away, their taillights vanishing down the long driveway. Behind her, Noah called out asking where Victor had gone. Elena turned from his window, painted on a smile, and went to lie to her son about business meetings and soon returns. But in her chest, her heart hammered with the certainty that Victor was walking into something that might consume him completely. And if he didn't come back, she'd have to decide whether to honor his wish and run or stay and fight for the family they'd barely started building. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The first night without Victor felt like holding her breath underwater. Elena lay in the darkness, listening to Noah's peaceful breathing through the connecting door, hyper-aware of every sound in the enormous house.
Footsteps in the hallway made her tense until she recognized Marco's distinctive gait during his security rounds. The wind against the windows sounded like threats. Every creak of settling wood became potential danger. She finally gave up on sleep around 3 in the morning, padding downstairs to find the kitchen already occupied. Marco sat at the counter with a tablet displaying multiple security feeds, a cup of black coffee steaming beside him. Mrs. Moretti. He stood when she entered, ever the professional. Can't sleep? Don't call me that. Elena moved to the coffee maker, poured herself a cup she didn't want just to have something to do with her hands. And no, you? I don't sleep when the boss is in the field. Marco's honesty was matter of fact. Someone needs to watch the home front. Elena studied him properly for the first time. Mid-40s, she guessed, with the kind of worn competence that spoke of decades in Victor's world. Scars marked his knuckles. His eyes carried the particular alertness of someone always calculating exits and threats. How long have you worked for him? 22 years. Since we were both stupid kids running numbers in Brooklyn. Marco's smile was brief. He saved my life, twice. I've been returning the favor ever since. Is he good at this? The violence, the war? Elena hated asking, but needed to know. Does he usually come back? Marco's expression softened with something that might have been sympathy. Victor Moretti is the most dangerous man I've ever known. Not because he's brutal, plenty of men are brutal, but because he's smart, calculated. He doesn't take risks unless he's already planned 3 exits and has contingencies for his contingencies. In 22 years, I've never seen him lose when the stakes really mattered. And this time? Do the stakes matter? Lady, he's got a 5-year-old son who looks exactly like him and a woman he's been grieving for 6 years. These are the highest stakes of his life. Marco turned back to his surveillance feeds. He'll come home. He has to. That boy upstairs just became his reason for everything. Elena sipped her coffee, watching the security feeds cycle through different views of the estate. You think I'm wrong for keeping Noah from him all these years? It wasn't a question, but Marco answered anyway. I think you did what you thought was right to protect your kid. I also think you underestimated what it would do to Victor. He was a different man after you left. Harder. More reckless. Like he had nothing left to lose. Marco's eyes found hers. Now he has everything to lose. That makes him either more dangerous or more vulnerable, depending on how you look at it. Which is it? Both. Marco's grin was sharp. That's what makes this interesting. They sat in companionable silence for a while, 2 people keeping vigil for the same man for entirely different reasons. Finally, Marco spoke again. He left instructions. If you're wondering, instructions for what? For if things go bad, for if he doesn't make it back. Marco pulled up a different file on his tablet. New identities for you and Noah. Offshore accounts totaling $47 million. A house in New Zealand, another in Portugal, a third in rural Japan, completely untraceable. You could disappear so thoroughly that even his enemies would never find you. The numbers were staggering. He told me, before he left. Did he tell you the rest? Marco's expression went serious. That he's liquidating the violent parts of his empire? That he's been making arrangements to transition everything into legitimate businesses? That he's planning an exit strategy that doesn't involve dying in a shootout? Elena's coffee cup paused halfway to her lips. What? He didn't want you to know yet. Didn't want you thinking it was manipulation or promises he couldn't keep. Marco shrugged. But you should know what he's willing to sacrifice for you and that boy. He's dismantling everything he built over 30 years. All the power, all the fear, all the influence that came from being the most dangerous man on the East Coast. He's walking away from it. For us? For the chance to be the father his kid deserves. For the possibility you might forgive him enough to try again. Marco's smile was sad. He knows he can't undo what he's been, but he's trying to become something different, even if it costs him everything he worked for. Elena felt something crack in her chest. He never said, of course not. Victor doesn't deal in promises anymore. He deals in action. Marco closed the tablet. But you should know, when he comes back, and he will come back, he's coming back different. Not soft, not weak, but different. A man choosing his family over his empire. The revelation sat heavy between them until Noah's voice called out from upstairs. Mama, where are you? Elena set down her coffee, moved toward the stairs. I'm here, baby. Just getting some water. She glanced back at Marco. Thank you. for telling me. Thank him when he gets home. Marco returned his attention to the security feeds. I'll keep watching. You take care of the kid. The second day crawled past with agonizing slowness. Noah asked about Victor constantly, each question a small knife in Elena's composure. She deflected with half-truths about business meetings and important work, painted on smiles that felt like they might crack her face. Maria helped, keeping Noah occupied with baking projects and garden exploration, but nothing quite distracted him from his father's absence. When's Victor coming home? Noah asked for the dozenth time over lunch. Soon, baby. He said a few days. But how many is a few? Noah's logic was relentless. Is it 3, 4, 10? Probably 3 or 4. Elena pushed food around her plate. He'll be back before you know it. I miss him. The simple statement devastated her. He promised to teach me more about the horses, and he said we'd practice t-ball, and he was going to show me his old dinosaur books from when he was little. Elena's throat closed. Victor had made all these promises, had created expectations, had woven himself into Noah's world with terrifying speed. And now her son was experiencing what she'd tried to protect him from, the fear of losing someone, the vulnerability of caring about a person whose life was constantly at risk. He'll keep his promises. Elena hoped she wasn't lying. Victor always keeps his promises. That night she found Noah crying in his room, clutching the stuffed dinosaur Maria had given him. What if something bad happens to him? Like what happened at the bakery? Elena climbed into bed beside her son, pulled him close. Victor is very careful and very strong. He knows how to stay safe. But people still got hurt at the bakery. Noah's tears soaked through her shirt. The nice lady who made my hot chocolate. She didn't get up, Mama. I saw her. The observation hit like a fist. Elena had tried to shield Noah from the worst of it, had covered his eyes and ears as best she could. But he'd seen. Of course he'd seen. Children saw everything. I know, baby. That was very scary. Elena kissed his hair, held him tighter. But Victor made sure we were safe, and now he's making sure we stay safe. That's what fathers do. They protect their families. Is that why he left? To protect us? Yes. The truth was easier than lies. He's making sure the bad people can't hurt us anymore. And when he comes back, we'll all be safer. Promise? Elena made promises she had no right making, whispered reassurances she couldn't guarantee, held her crying child, and prayed to nothing in particular that Victor was as good at violence as Marco claimed. The third morning brought a shift in the house's energy. Marco's tension was palpable when Elena came downstairs. The other guards moved with heightened alertness. Something had changed. What's happening? Elena demanded, following Marco into the study. He hesitated, clearly weighing how much to tell her. The Marchese underboss made a move last night. Tried to rally what's left of his organization for a counterattack. It went badly for him. Badly how? Victor personally handled it. Marco's expression was grim. It's done. The Marchese family is finished, but there were complications. Elena's blood turned to ice. What kind of complications? The kind where Victor took a bullet. Marco held up a hand as Elena's world tilted. He's alive. Already patched up and moving, but the injury changes the timeline. He's coming home today instead of tomorrow. Should be here by nightfall. Relief and terror warred in Elena's chest. How bad is the injury? Bad enough that he's limping and pissed off about it. Not bad enough to stop him from finishing the job. Marco's grim smile suggested approval. He's already started on the Costellos. They're scrambling to make peace before he does to them what he did to the Marcheses. What? How many people died, Marco? Elena needed to know. How many lives did Victor take in the last 3 days? Marco's expression went carefully neutral. You really want that number? Yes. 37 confirmed. Another dozen probable but unconfirmed. Marco's voice carried no emotion. Every single one of them made the choice to threaten you and Noah. Every single one of them knew the consequences. 37 people. Elena felt the weight of it settle over her like a shroud. 37 lives ended because she'd walked into a bakery. Because Victor had recognized his son. Because she'd set in motion a series of events that culminated in mass death. Hey. Marco's hand on her shoulder pulled her back from the spiral. Don't do that. Don't take responsibility for choices other people made. Those men decided to hunt a 5-year-old child. They decided to put a bounty on your head. They decided violence was an acceptable response. Victor just made sure they couldn't follow through. That doesn't make it better. It makes it necessary. Marco's interruption was firm. And if you're going to survive in this world, even temporarily, even just until Victor can transition out, you need to understand that distinction. Necessary doesn't mean good. It just means the alternative is worse. Elena wanted to argue, to maintain her moral high ground, to insist there had to be another way. But she kept seeing the bakery, kept remembering Noah's terrified sobs, kept feeling the very real possibility of losing everything. When he gets here, I want to see him immediately. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Before he even sees Noah, I need to know he's really okay. Done. Marco nodded approval. I'll have him come to you first. Fair warning, though. He's not going to look great. Shoulder wound, lots of bruising, probably running on pure adrenaline and stubbornness.
I don't care what he looks like. I just need to see him breathing. The day dragged with excruciating slowness. Elena tried to keep Noah occupied, but her attention kept drifting to the windows, watching for vehicles that didn't come. Maria made dinner that no one had appetite for. The guards rotated with military precision, all of them clearly waiting for their boss to return. Finally, as the sun began its descent, Marco's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked at Elena. 10 minutes out. I'll take Noah to the game room. You meet Victor in the study. Elena's heart hammered as she made her way to the study, as she stood there feeling like a wife waiting for her husband to return from war. Which was ridiculous because she wasn't Victor's wife anymore, hadn't been for 6 years, shouldn't care this much whether he was hurt or whole. But she did care. Somewhere in the last 3 days of waiting and worrying and watching her son grieve his father's absence, she'd started caring again in ways that terrified her. The sound of vehicles in the driveway made her pulse spike. Doors opening, low voices, footsteps approaching. Then Victor was there, filling the doorway with his presence, despite the visible exhaustion etched into his features. He looked like hell. His left arm hung in a makeshift sling. Bruises darkened his jaw and temple. He moved with the careful stiffness of someone managing pain through sheer willpower. But he was alive, breathing, standing in front of her with those storm-gray eyes that had haunted her dreams for 6 years. Elena. Her name came out rough and grateful. I'm home. Then she was moving, closing the distance between them, her hands frantically searching for injuries even as she tried not to hurt him. You got shot. Marco said you got shot. Through and through, clean wound. Already stitched. Victor caught her hand, stilled her frantic inventory. I'm okay. Sore and pissed off about the limp, but okay. You promised you'd be careful. I was careful. The other guy who tried to shoot me is dead. I'm just wounded. Victor's attempt at humor fell flat. This is careful in my world. Elena felt tears threatening and hated herself for them. Noah's been asking about you constantly. He cried himself to sleep last night. Victor's expression crumpled. I'm sorry. I tried to finish faster, tried to get home sooner, but the Marchese underboss made a last stand and he stopped himself. You don't need the details. I'm here now. Can I see him? In a minute. Elena's hands came up to frame his face, her thumbs tracing the bruises with heartbreaking gentleness. First, tell me the truth. Is it over? Are we safe? The Marchese family is gone, completely dismantled. Victor's certainty was absolute. The Costellos are begging for a truce. The Russians decided neutrality was smarter than confrontation, and I've put word out through every channel. Anyone who touches my family dies screaming. The message has been received. So we can leave. Go back to some version of normal. Victor's laugh was bitter. There's no going back, Elena. Not after this. But we can move forward. We can build something new. His hand settled at her waist, pulling her closer despite the pain it clearly caused him. I meant what I said before I left. I'm changing things. Transitioning out of the violent operations. Building legitimate businesses that Noah can inherit without blood on his hands. Marco told me about the exit strategy, about what you're willing to give up. He talks too much. Victor's smile was fond despite the criticism. But yes, I'm done with this life, or I will be once the transitions are complete. Another year, maybe 2, and I'll be nothing more than a businessman with a questionable past. And your enemies? They'll just let you walk away? They'll respect that I earned retirement, or they'll die trying to prevent it. Victor's shrug was casual despite the deadly promise. Either way, Noah grows up with a father who attends PTA meetings instead of conducting wars. The image was so absurd, Victor Moretti at a parent-teacher conference, that Elena almost laughed. You really think you can do that? Be normal? I think I can try. Victor's forehead pressed to hers. I think I'll fail spectacularly at parts of it. I think I'll always be too controlling, too protective, too willing to solve problems with violence. But I'll try because he deserves a father who tries. And you deserve a partner who actually puts you first instead of just claiming to. Victor, I love you. The confession came raw and desperate. I loved you 6 years ago, even though I showed it wrong. I loved you every day you were gone. And I love you now, standing here bleeding and exhausted, more certain of this than anything in my life. You don't have to love me back. You don't have to forgive what I was. But I need you to know. Elena's tears finally spilled over. You can't just say things like that. Why not? I spent 6 years not saying it, thinking I had time, thinking you knew. Then you were gone, and I'd never actually told you. Victor's thumbs brushed her tears away. I'm done assuming. I'm done leaving things unsaid. I love you, Elena Cross. I love our son. And I'll spend whatever time I have left proving I can be worthy of both of you. The words undid her completely. She kissed him before she could think better of it, her lips finding his with desperate need. Victor made a sound between pain and relief, kissing her back with the fervor of a man starved for this connection. They broke apart when his sharp inhale indicated the kiss was aggravating his injuries. Elena pulled back, steadying him when he swayed slightly. You need rest, medical attention, probably pain medication, and I need to see my son. Victor's priority was clear. Then I'll rest. Then I'll let the doctor fuss. But first, I need Noah to know I came home like I promised. Elena couldn't argue with that. He's in the game room with Marco, but Victor, he saw things at the bakery. He's been having nightmares. He's scared of losing you. Then I'll show him I'm here, that I kept my promise. Victor moved toward the door, limping but determined. That's what fathers do, right? They come home. They keep promises. They show up even when it's hard. They found Noah building an elaborate block tower, his face serious with concentration. Marco saw them first, caught Victor's eye, then quietly excused himself. Noah. Victor's voice was soft. I'm back, champion. Noah's head snapped up. For a moment he just stared, taking in his father's battered appearance. Then he was moving, running across the room and launching himself at Victor with 5-year-old abandon. Victor caught him, despite the pain it clearly caused, lifting Noah with his good arm and holding him close. Hey, buddy. I missed you. You're hurt. Noah pulled back, his small hands hovering over the sling. Did the bad people hurt you? A little, but I'm okay. Victor settled onto the couch, keeping Noah in his lap. See? Still here. Still keeping promises. You said you'd teach me t-ball. Noah's accusation was heartbreaking. You said you'd come back soon and you were gone forever. 3 days isn't forever. It just felt long. Victor's hand smoothed Noah's hair. And I will teach you t-ball tomorrow, if my shoulder cooperates. If not, the day after. I'm not going anywhere, Noah. This is my home now. You and your mama are my home. Noah processed this with the seriousness of childhood. Mama said you were making us safe. Did you make us safe? As safe as I possibly can. Victor's eyes found Elena's over Noah's head. The people who wanted to hurt us can't anymore. We don't have to be scared. But you got hurt making us safe. Noah's logic was devastating. What if next time you don't come back? Then you'll remember that your father loved you more than anything. Victor's voice roughened. That he fought to protect you. That every choice he made was about keeping you and your mama safe. But Noah, I plan to come back every time. I plan to be here for t-ball and dinosaur talks and teaching you to ride horses. I plan to be the dad you deserve. Promise? I promise. Victor made the vow with absolute conviction. I'm not going anywhere. You're stuck with me. Noah seemed satisfied with this, settling against Victor's chest with the trust only children possess. I love you, Daddy. The word hit Victor like a physical blow. His arms tightened around Noah, his face pressing into their son's hair to hide the emotion wrecking his control. I love you too, champion. So much. More than I knew was possible. Elena watched them together. Her son and the man she'd run from, bound by biology and choice, and something that looked remarkably like healing. She saw Victor's future in that moment,
saw the man he was trying to become reflected in Noah's adoring eyes. Later, after Noah was asleep and the doctor had examined Victor's injuries and pronounced them painful but not life-threatening, Elena found herself back in the study with the man who'd turned her world upside down twice now. "Thank you," Victor's words were quiet, "for letting me be his father, for giving me this chance, for not running when you could have." Where would I run to? Elena's honesty was simple. You were right. That life is over. The moment those bullets started flying, everything changed. So what now? Victor's question held hope and fear in equal measure. We co-parent from separate rooms? We maintain polite distance while raising our son? We pretend the last 3 days didn't change anything? Elena moved to where he sat, careful of his injuries. No, we try. The words came easier than expected. We try to build something real, not like before, not you controlling and me feeling suffocated, but actual partnership, actual trust. We try to be parents together, and maybe, if we don't destroy each other in the process, we try to be more than that. More? Victor's hand found hers, fingers tangling together. As in, I might be willing to forgive you, might be willing to see if the man you're becoming is someone I could love again. Elena's smile was tentative. Might be willing to give us another chance, if you prove you meant everything you said about changing. I'll prove it. Victor pulled her closer until she was standing between his knees, his forehead pressed to her stomach. I'll prove it every day. I'll be patient when you need space. I'll be present when you need support. I'll be the partner you needed instead of the prison I became. And if you fail? Elena's hands settled in his hair. If you fall back into old patterns? Then you call me on it. You tell me I'm being a controlling bastard. You remind me that love isn't ownership. Well, Victor looked up at her, vulnerability naked in his eyes. You don't run. You fight. You give me the chance to do better before you give up on us. That's a lot of faith in someone who hurt you. You didn't hurt me by leaving. Victor's correction was gentle. You protected our son and yourself from a man who didn't deserve you. That was survival, not cruelty. I hurt myself by being too broken to see what I was doing until you were gone. Elena felt something shift in her chest. Forgiveness, maybe, or at least the possibility of it. I'm still angry. Good. Be angry. Victor's acceptance was complete. Be angry, be cautious, be skeptical of every promise I make. Just be here. Be willing to see if I can actually become someone worth trusting again. And Noah? How do we protect him from this world while you're transitioning out? Together. Victor's certainty was absolute. We show him both sides. You teach him compassion and empathy. I teach him strength and confidence. Together, we give him the tools to navigate a complicated world without being destroyed by it. That's optimistic. That's necessary. Victor stood carefully, ignoring his injuries to cup her face in his hands. Because the alternative, me doing this alone, you running scared, Noah growing up without both parents, that's not acceptable. So we try. We fail sometimes. We figure it out as we go, but we do it together. Elena leaned into his touch, let herself believe for just a moment that maybe this could work. You make it sound simple. It won't be simple. It'll be messy and complicated and probably disaster more often than success. Victor's smile was self-aware. But it'll be ours. Our family, our rules, our chance to do better than the broken things we came from. Through the window, Elena could see the first stars emerging in the darkening sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Victor's recovery, the continued threat assessment, decisions about Noah's future. But tonight, they had this: fragile peace, tentative trust, the possibility of building something real from the wreckage of everything they'd broken. Stay with me tonight. Victor's request was vulnerable. I'm not asking for anything except not being alone. I just want you close. Want to know you're safe. Want to wake up and have you be the first thing I see. Elena knew she should maintain boundaries, should protect her heart, should be smart about this reconciliation that might implode spectacularly. Instead, she took his hand and led him upstairs, helped him navigate the stairs despite his protests, settled him into bed with careful attention to his injuries. She lay beside him in the darkness, careful not to jostle his wounded shoulder, listening to his breathing even out as exhaustion finally claimed him. His hand found hers under the covers, fingers tangling together with desperate need. "I'm here." She whispered the promise into the darkness. "I'm not running. We'll figure this out together." Victor's response was barely audible. "Together." I like the sound of that. Elena lay awake long after he fell asleep, watching this complicated man who'd killed for them, who'd been willing to die for them, who was trying so hard to become someone worthy of the family he'd never expected to have. Tomorrow would bring reality, the consequences of Victor's violence, the complications of their situation, the hard work of actually building trust from broken foundations. But tonight, they had this fragile piece, this tentative beginning, this chance to become something more than the sum of their mistakes. And for the first time in 6 years, Elena let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, they could actually make it work. Elena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Victor's steady breathing beside her. For a disoriented moment, she forgot the last 4 days, forgot the bullets and blood and the man who'd walked back into her life with the force of destiny. Then she felt his hand still tangled with hers beneath the covers, and memory crashed back with everything it carried. She turned carefully to look at him. Even in sleep, Victor's face carried tension, his jaw tight with pain he refused to acknowledge while awake. The bruises had darkened overnight, purple and yellow blooming across his temple and cheekbone. His shoulder, heavily bandaged beneath the t-shirt someone had helped him into, made small movements that suggested even unconscious. His body registered discomfort. This was the man who'd killed 37 people to keep them safe. This was the father who'd held their son and made promises about T-ball and dinosaurs. This was the husband she'd run from and the partner she might be willing to try again with. All of it wrapped in one complicated, dangerous, heartbreakingly human package. "You're staring." Victor's voice was rough with sleep, his eyes still closed. "I can feel it." "How do you feel?" Elena's question encompassed more than physical pain. Victor's eyes opened, those storm-gray depths finding hers with startling clarity. "Like I got shot, beat to hell, and came home to find the two people I love most actually waiting for me. So pretty damn good, all things considered." "You need pain medication. The doctor says a lot of things." Victor shifted carefully, wincing as the movement pulled at his shoulder. "Most of which I'm ignoring because I have a 5-year-old who's going to wake up any minute and want his father functional, not drugged." As if summoned, Noah's voice called out from the next room. "Mama? Victor?" Elena started to rise, but Victor caught her hand. "Let me. I need him to see I'm okay, that I kept my promise about coming home." She watched him lever himself upright with visible effort, his jaw clenching against pain he refused to show. Then he was moving toward the connecting door, opening it to find Noah standing there in dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in every direction. "Hey, champion." Victor's smile transformed his battered face. "Sleep okay?" Noah studied his father seriously, taking in the bruises and the careful way Victor held himself. "You're still hurt." "A little, but I'm still here, still ready to teach you about horses and t-ball and anything else you want to learn." Victor knelt slowly, bringing himself to Noah's level despite the obvious pain. "I promised I'd come back, remember? And I keep my promises." Noah launched himself into Victor's arms with the fearlessness of childhood, nearly knocking him backward. Victor caught him with his good arm, held him close, buried his face in their son's hair with an expression of such raw love that Elena felt her throat tighten. "I was scared you wouldn't come back." Noah's confession was muffled against Victor's chest. "Mama said you would, but I was still scared." "I know, buddy. Being scared is okay. It means you care." Victor pulled back enough to meet Noah's eyes. "But I need you to know something important. Are you listening?" Noah nodded solemnly. "I will always come back to you. Always. No matter what happens, no matter how hard it gets, I will fight my way back to you and your mama. That's what family means. We don't give up on each other." Victor's thumb brushed Noah's cheek. "You understand." "Like the velociraptors, they never left their pack behind." Victor's surprised laugh was genuine. "Exactly like the velociraptors. We're a pack now, the three of us. And packs stick together." The simple analogy seemed to satisfy Noah's 5-year-old logic. He wriggled free from Victor's embrace, his attention already shifting with childhood's remarkable resilience. "Can we have pancakes? The chocolate chip ones?" "Absolutely. Let's go see what Maria can make happen." Victor stood with visible effort, offering his hand to Noah, then extending his other to Elena. "Come on, family breakfast before the day gets complicated." Elena took his hand, let herself be pulled into this fragile new dynamic. The three of them made their way downstairs together, Noah chattering between them about dinosaurs and horses and all the things he wanted to do now that Victor was home. Maria had breakfast ready as if she'd anticipated their arrival. Chocolate chip pancakes for Noah, eggs and toast for the adults, coffee strong enough to strip paint. She fussed over Victor's injuries with the authority of someone who'd clearly patched him up before, insisting he take at least mild pain medication before attempting anything strenuous. "The boy needs his father functional, not heroic," she scolded when Victor tried to refuse. "Take the pills. They won't make you useless, just less likely to pass out from pain." Victor accepted the medication with surprising grace, shooting Elena a look that suggested Maria was one of the few people who could boss him around successfully. The domesticity of it all, the breakfast, the gentle scolding, the easy rhythm of family mourning, felt surreal after days of violence and fear. They were finishing breakfast when Marco appeared in the doorway, his expression serious. "Boss, we need to talk, privately." Victor's transformation was immediate, the gentle father disappearing behind the crime lord's mask. "Give me 10 minutes. It's urgent." 10 minutes. Victor's tone brooked no argument. He turned back to Noah, forced his expression to soften. "Hey, champion. How about you go with Maria to feed the horses while I handle some boring business stuff?" Noah's disappointment was visible, but he nodded, already sliding from his chair. "You'll come find me after? You promised to teach me about Comet." "The second I'm done. I promise." Victor watched Noah leave with Maria, then stood carefully. "Elena, you should hear this too. Whatever's happening affects all of us." In the study, Marco wasted no time on pleasantries. "The Costello family sent an emissary. They want to negotiate terms." "Terms for what?" Elena asked before Victor could respond. "For not dying." Marco's bluntness was matter of fact. They saw what happened to the Marcheses. They're smart enough to know they're next if they don't make peace. Victor settled into his chair with visible relief, his shoulder clearly bothering him more than he'd admit. "What are they offering?" "Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories, formal recognition of your claim to the waterfront operations, and a guarantee of non-interference with your family." Marco's expression suggested skepticism. "It's a good offer, almost too good, which means they're desperate." Victor's smile was sharp. "What do they want in exchange?" "Mercy. They want assurance you won't dismantle them the way you did the Marcheses. They're willing to become subordinate rather than extinct." Elena watched this discussion of power and territory like she was observing a foreign language. These were decisions that would impact lives, families, entire criminal organizations. And Victor was making them from a study in his home, wounded and exhausted, but still commanding absolute authority. "What are the risks?" Victor's question was directed at Marco, but his eyes found Elena's, clearly aware she was processing all of this. "They could be buying time, could be planning a move once you're recovered, could be genuine fear making them smart." Marco shrugged. "Your call, boss. But for what it's worth, I think they're sincere. You scared the hell out of everyone. They know you'll burn them all down if they threaten your kid. Then we accept their terms with conditions." Victor's decision was immediate. Full withdrawal, public subordination, and they send their children to neutral boarding schools as insurance. They stay loyal, their kids get excellent educations. They make a move, their kids become leverage. The casual mention of using children as collateral made Elena's stomach turn. "Victor, relax. The kids go to actual schools, get actual educations, live actual lives. They're just insurance that keeps parents honest." Victor's expression softened when he saw her distress. "I'm not threatening children, Elena. I'm making their safety contingent on their parents' good behavior. It's practical, not cruel." "It's still using innocence. Welcome to my world." Victor's interruption was gentle but firm. "This is how power works. This is how I keep Noah safe. I make examples of those who threaten us and offer mercy to those who surrender. It's brutal, but effective." Marco cleared his throat. "There's more. The Russians want a meeting, face to face. They're proposing neutral ground, no weapons, just conversation." "About what?" "About staying out of each other's way. They respect what you did, the speed, the efficiency, the message it sent. They want to formalize non-aggression, keep their operations separate from yours." Marco's expression suggested approval. "It's smart diplomacy from their perspective." Victor leaned back in his chair, clearly calculating angles and risks. "Set it up. Public location, daylight, my terms on security protocols. If they're genuine about peace, they'll accept the conditions. And if they're not genuine, Elena couldn't help asking. Then they die, and we move on to the next problem. Victor's casual certainty about dealing death should have horrified her. Instead, she found herself numbly accepting this was who he was, what he did, how he protected them. But I don't think they're playing games. The Russians are pragmatic. They saw an opportunity for expansion when the Marqueses fell. Now they're seeing that expansion comes with consequences they're not willing to pay. Marco nodded. I'll make the arrangements. Anything else? Yes. Accelerate the transition timeline. I want full legitimization of all operations within 18 months, not 2 years. Every dollar needs to be clean. Every business needs to be defensible in daylight. Victor's eyes found Elena's again. I meant what I said about walking away. I'm done with this life. I just need time to do it right. 18 months is aggressive, Marco warned. Some operations can't be unwound that fast without losing massive value. Then we lose value. I don't care. Victor's interruption was absolute. My son starts kindergarten in 6 months. I want to be able to attend parent-teacher conferences without wondering if the FBI is photographing attendees. I want to take him to t-ball games without armed guards. I want a life where the biggest threat is playground bullies, not rival crime families. Make it happen. Marco's expression softened with something that might have been pride. On it, boss. Anything else? Yeah, take the rest of the day off. You've been running security solo for 3 days. Get some sleep. That's an order. After Marco left, silence filled the study. Elena stood at the window, processing everything she'd just heard, trying to reconcile the brutal efficiency with which Victor dismantled threats against the gentle father who'd promised their son pancakes and dinosaur discussions. Say it. Victor's voice came from behind her. Whatever you're thinking, just say it. I don't know what I'm thinking. Elena's honesty was raw. Part of me is horrified by how casually you discuss killing people. Part of me is grateful you're willing to do it to keep us safe. Part of me is terrified of what Noah learns growing up around this. And part of me... She stopped herself. Part of you what? Victor's hand settled on her shoulder, gentle despite the conversation they were having. Part of me understands why you do it. The admission cost her. Part of me looks at our son and knows I do terrible things to protect him too. Maybe not the same things, maybe not with the same efficiency, but I'd cross lines I never thought I would. And that scares me more than anything else. Victor turned her to face him, his hands framing her face with heartbreaking tenderness. That's what makes you human, Elena. That capacity for violence in service of love. It doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a mother. But where does it end? When do we stop justifying brutality because it protects the people we love? When the threats stop coming, when we've built enough walls, made enough examples, created enough fear that people know attacking us isn't worth the cost. Victor's thumb brushed her cheekbone. I know it's not the answer you want. You want me to say there's a moral way to handle immoral people. But there isn't. There's just survival, and the price we're willing to pay for it. Elena leaned into his touch despite herself. I hate that you're right. I hate that I'm right too. Victor's smile was sad. But I'd rather be right, and have you both safe than be noble and bury my family. That's the choice I'm making. The only choice I can make. They stood like that for a long moment, two people trying to find common ground in an impossible situation. Finally, Elena spoke. 18 months. You really think you can walk away in 18 months? I have to, for Noah. For you. For any chance we have at something resembling normal. Victor's conviction was absolute. I've spent 30 years building this empire. I can spend 18 months dismantling it if it means my son doesn't inherit my sins. And if your enemies don't let you walk away, then they become examples of why others should. Victor's certainty carried the weight of absolute power. But most will let me go. I've earned retirement. And the ones who don't, he shrugged with his good shoulder. Well, that's what the next 18 months are for. Making sure no one's stupid enough to try. A knock on the door interrupted them. Maria appeared, Noah beside her, both of them clearly having heard raised voices and come to investigate. Everything okay? Maria's question was pointed. The little one was worried about his parents fighting. Victor immediately dropped to one knee, ignoring the pain it caused. Hey, champion. Mama and I weren't fighting. We were just talking about grown-up stuff. Sometimes grown-ups talk loud when they're working through problems. It doesn't mean we're mad at each other. Noah studied them both seriously. Are you sure? 'Cause my friend Tommy's parents talked loud, and then his dad moved away. The innocent observation hit like a physical blow. Elena saw Victor flinch, saw the fear flash across his face that Noah might think he was leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Victor's promise was fierce. I told you we're a pack. Your mama and I are figuring out how to be the best pack we can be. That means sometimes we disagree or talk through hard stuff, but it doesn't mean anyone's leaving. Understand? Noah seemed satisfied, his attention already shifting. Can we see Comet now? You promised. I did promise. Victor stood with Elena's help, shot her a look that was equal parts apology and gratitude. Let's go meet him properly. The four of them made their way to the stables, Victor and Elena walking close together while Noah raced ahead with Maria following at a more sedate pace. The afternoon sun was warm, the estate grounds peaceful in ways that belied the violence of the last few days. At the stables, Victor introduced Noah to Comet with the patience of someone who genuinely loved teaching. He showed their son how to approach the young horse, how to read his body language, how to offer treats with a flat palm. Elena watched this lesson in respect and awareness, seeing how Victor's worldview translated even to animal interaction. Understand your environment, read the signals, approach with confidence, but never arrogance. He likes you. Victor's hand covered Noah's as they both stroked Comet's nose. Animals can sense good hearts. Comet knows you're gentle. Like Mama. Noah's observation was simple. She's gentle too. She is. That's where you get it from. Victor's eyes found Elena's over Noah's head, carrying weight that had nothing to do with horses and everything to do with the complicated dance they were navigating. You got my eyes and your mama's heart, best of both worlds. They spent the afternoon in surprising normalcy, teaching Noah about horses, walking the estate grounds, having dinner together as Maria fussed over Victor's injuries and insisted he actually rest. Noah fell asleep early, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the last few days, leaving Elena and Victor alone on the terrace as the sun set. Thank you. Victor's words broke the comfortable silence. For today, for letting me be his father, for not running when you had every reason to. I told you, there's nowhere to run to anymore. Elena's response was automatic but not entirely true. She could have run, could have taken Victor's money and new identities and disappeared. The fact that she'd stayed meant something she wasn't quite ready to examine. You could have run. You chose to stay. Victor's correction was gentle. There's a difference, and I'm grateful for it. Elena turned to face him, this complicated man who'd destroyed her world and rebuilt it in the same breath. What happens now? We just keep pretending this is normal? Keep building this weird family dynamic while you wage war on everyone who threatens us? We stop pretending and start building. Victor's hand found hers on the railing. We make decisions together. We set boundaries and expectations. We figure out what this family looks like when it's not running on crisis and adrenaline. And your world, the violence, the enemies, the constant threat, becomes background noise while I transition out. You and Noah are foreground. You're primary. Everything else is just logistics I'm handling. Victor pulled her closer, mindful of his injuries. I meant what I said about legitimizing everything, about walking away, about being the father Noah deserves and the partner you needed. Pretty words again, but Elena's protest was half-hearted. True words. Victor's forehead pressed to hers. I love you, Elena. I loved you badly before, loved you wrong, loved you in ways that hurt instead of helped. But I'm learning, I'm trying. And if you give me the chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I can love you right. Elena felt her carefully maintained distance crumbling. What if I can't forgive you? What if too much has happened, too much water under too many burned bridges? Then we build new bridges. Victor's acceptance was complete. We don't erase the past. We learn from it. We do better. We become people who deserve the family we're trying to build. You make it sound possible. It is possible. Difficult, complicated, messy as hell, but possible. Victor's smile was self-aware. We're both broken people trying to raise a whole child. That's terrifying and beautiful and exactly what millions of parents do every day. We're just doing it with more armed guards and former crime lords than most. The absurdity of it made Elena laugh despite everything. This is insane. This whole situation is completely insane. Welcome to my life. Our life. The insanity we're building together. Victor's kiss was gentle, seeking rather than demanding. But it's our insanity, We make the rules, we decide what family looks like. We choose each other or we don't, but either way, we do it honestly. Elena kissed him back, letting 6 years of distance and fear dissolve in the connection they'd never quite managed to kill. When they broke apart, breathless and wanting, she made a decision that terrified and exhilarated her in equal measure. Okay. Okay? Victor's confusion was visible. Okay, we try. We build this weird, complicated, slightly terrifying family. We figure out how to be partners instead of warden and prisoner. We give Noah both of us instead of forcing him to choose. Elena's hands fisted in Victor's shirt. But I have conditions. Name them. Victor's immediate acceptance showed how serious he was. First, you don't make decisions about Noah without me. No unilateral choices about his safety, his education, his future. We're partners or we're nothing. Agreed. What else? Second, you actually follow through on the transition. 18 months, Victor. I'm holding you to that. If you're still running criminal operations when Noah starts first grade, I'm gone. New identity, new country, completely disappeared. Victor's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Agreed. What else? Third, you let me have a life outside this estate. Friends, work, independence. I'm not your prisoner or your property. I'm your partner. That means I get autonomy. Elena's voice strengthened. I need to be more than just Noah's mother and your wife. I need to be me. What do you want to do? Victor's question held genuine curiosity. I don't know yet. Maybe finish my degree. Maybe start a foundation for women fleeing dangerous situations. I have experience there. Elena's smile was sharp. Maybe find a way to use your blood money for actual good in the world. I love that. Victor's enthusiasm was genuine. I love the idea of you taking everything ugly I've built and transforming it into something beautiful. That's exactly the kind of alchemy our family needs. Our family? Elena tested the words. That's still weird to say. Get used to it. Because we're building something here, Elena. Something imperfect and unconventional, but ours. Victor pulled her closer, his good arm solid around her waist. Noah gets both parents. You get partnership instead of prison. I get the family I never thought I deserved. We all get a second chance to do better than we did before. Over the next weeks, they fell into a rhythm that surprised Elena with its workability. Victor spent mornings with Noah, teaching him about horses, playing t-ball in the yard, building elaborate block towers that always ended in dramatic dinosaur attacks. Afternoons he spent on business calls and meetings, gradually dismantling the violent empire he'd built while Elena researched foundation structures and started planning the nonprofit that would channel his money into helping women escape exactly the situations she'd fled. Marco became a constant presence, part bodyguard, part uncle figure to Noah, always hovering in the background to ensure their safety. Maria ran the household with quiet efficiency, feeding them and fussing over them in equal measure. The guards rotated through their shifts with professional discretion, present but not intrusive. Elena watched Victor transform before her eyes. The brutal crime lord softened around their son, became patient and playful, and surprisingly gentle. He attended a parent meeting for Noah's upcoming kindergarten enrollment, sitting in a classroom designed for 5-year-olds and discussing education philosophies with teachers who had no idea the polite, attentive father was also a man who'd killed dozens. The meeting with the Russians happened on neutral ground, a public park in broad daylight with dozens of witnesses. Victor returned unharmed and satisfied, a non-aggression pact signed and sealed with promises that would be kept because both sides understood the cost of breaking them. The Costellos sent their children to boarding schools in Switzerland and England, their compliance absolute after witnessing the Marchesi family's complete dismantlement. Other smaller organizations either fell in line or quietly dissolved, none of them willing to test whether Victor's protection of his family extended to preemptive strikes. Through it all, Elena and Victor navigated the complicated terrain of rebuilding trust. They had good days where everything felt possible, and hard days where old patterns threatened to reassert themselves. They fought about boundaries and parenting, and how much danger was acceptable in their new normal. They made up with honest conversations and genuine compromise in the slow realization that they were actually becoming partners instead of adversaries. 3 months after the bakery incident, Elena woke to find Victor already awake beside her, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She touched her face self-consciously. Do I have something? I love you. The declaration was simple and devastating. I know I've said it before. I know I'm probably saying it too much. But I need you to know it's real. Not desperation or fear of losing you or manipulation, just love. Pure and simple and more certain than anything I've ever felt. Elena's throat tightened. Victor, you don't have to say it back. Victor's thumb brushed her cheekbone. You don't have to feel it yet, or maybe ever. I just need you to know that I do. That every choice I make, every decision about our future, every step toward legitimacy, it's all because I love you and Noah more than I've ever loved anything. The truth of it was written in his eyes, in the way he looked at her, in the man he was becoming. Elena felt her carefully guarded heart crack open just a little more. I'm getting there. Her honesty was tentative. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. The man you're becoming, the father, the partner, the person who's willing to dismantle everything for family, him I could love. I might already be starting to. Victor's smile was incandescent. That's enough. More than enough. We'll get there together. They were interrupted by Noah's running footsteps and his delighted shout about Maria making special pancakes. The moment shattered into morning routine, but something had shifted between them. Something that felt permanent. 6 months after the bakery, Victor made good on his promise. He signed papers transferring his last violent operation into legitimate holding companies. The docks became shipping and logistics. The protection rackets became private security firms. The money laundering became investment banking. Every dollar was clean, every business defensible, every connection severed from the criminal empire he'd built. He took Elena and Noah to the signing, made it a family event, showed their son what it looked like when someone chose family over power. This is boring grown-up stuff, Noah complained, fidgeting in his chair. This is your daddy choosing you over everything else. Elena's correction was gentle. This is what love looks like. Making hard choices, giving up things that seem important, putting family first. Well, Noah didn't fully understand, but he seemed to grasp that something significant was happening. Are we safe now? Like really safe? Victor knelt beside their son's chair, bringing himself to Noah's level. We're as safe as I can make us, champion. There are no guarantees in life, but I've done everything possible to make sure the bad guys leave us alone. And if they don't, he smiled with just a hint of the predator he'd been. Well, your old man still remembers how to be very convincing about protecting his family. Good. Noah's acceptance was simple. Because I like it here. I like having a dad. I don't want anything to change. Things will change, buddy. You'll grow up, start school, make friends, have adventures. But the important stuff, Mama and I loving you, us being a family, you being safe, that won't change. That's permanent. Victor's promise carried the weight of absolute conviction. That night, after Noah was asleep and the house had settled into quiet, Elena found Victor on the terrace where they'd had so many conversations about their complicated future. You did it. She settled beside him, taking his hand without thought. You actually walked away. I told you I would. Victor's smile was tired but satisfied. 18 months felt like forever when I was in it, but now it's done. I'm just a businessman with questionable past connections and a family I'd die to protect. Just? Elena's laugh was gentle. Victor, you dismantled a criminal empire. You chose us over power. You became the father Noah deserves. That's not just anything. It's everything. Victor turned to face her fully. You and Noah are everything. The rest was just noise I mistook for purpose. But this, being his dad, being your partner, building something real instead of something brutal, this is what I was supposed to be doing all along. Elena felt the last of her resistance crumble. She'd spent 6 years running from this man, 6 months learning to trust him again, countless hours building the fragile thing that might become love. And looking at him now, exhausted and satisfied and completely committed to the family they'd created, she realized she'd already fallen. I love you. The words came easier than expected. I didn't want to. I fought against it. I told myself you were still the man I ran from. But you're not. You're different, better, and the man you've become, him I love, completely, terrifyingly, without reservation. Victor's expression transformed, joy and relief, and something that looked like wonder flooding his features. Say it again. I love you. Elena's smile was tremulous. I love you, and I'm choosing to stay. Not because I'm trapped or scared or have nowhere else to go, but because this, us, Noah, this weird, complicated family we're building, this is where I want to be. Victor pulled her into his arms, kissing her with desperate tenderness, years of longing and hope and fear dissolving into certainty. When they broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to hers. Marry me. Again. Properly this time. With Noah standing beside us.
With promises we actually keep and a future we build together. Victor's voice roughened with emotion. Be my wife, my partner, my family. Choose me the way I choose you every single day. Elena felt tears threatening and didn't fight them. Yes, but on one condition. Anything. We write our own vows, none of the traditional stuff about obeying or becoming one person. We promise to be partners, to choose each other, to fight for this family we're building. Elena's hands framed his face. We promise to be better than we were, even when it's hard. I can do that. Victor's smile was everything, promise and hope and absolute commitment. I can be better. I can be worthy of you. I can be the husband you need and the father our son deserves. I promise you that, Elena. On everything I am and everything I'm trying to become. They stood together on the terrace as night deepened, two broken people who'd found each other twice now, building something imperfect but real from the wreckage of everything they'd survived. Inside, their son slept peacefully, unaware that his parents were pledging their lives to each other and to him. Around them, the estate settled into quiet, guards rotating through shifts that were becoming more routine and less necessary as Victor's enemies learned that threatening his family meant certain destruction. The wedding happened 3 months later in the estate gardens, small and intimate with only the people who mattered. Noah served as ring bearer with the seriousness of someone entrusted with critical mission. Maria cried through the entire ceremony. Marco stood as Victor's best man, his expression proud despite his usual stoicism. Elena wore simple white, no veil, no pretense that this was some fairy tale beginning. They'd already had their fairy tale and watched it burn. This was something different, something harder won and more honest. This was two people who'd hurt each other choosing to try again with open eyes and realistic expectations. Victor's vows were everything he'd promised. I choose you, Elena, not because you're perfect or because this will be easy, but because you're you, strong and compassionate and willing to see past what I was to what I'm trying to become. I promise to be your partner, not your warden. To give you freedom, not a cage. To love you with actions, not just words. And to be the father our son deserves every single day for the rest of my life. Elena's response was equally honest. I choose you, Victor, not because I've forgotten the past or because I'm sure this won't sometimes be terrible, but because you've proven you can change, can grow, can become more than the violence you were raised in. I promise to be your partner, not your prisoner. To build with you, not just survive you, to love you completely while remaining completely myself, and to raise our son together, teaching him to be better than both of us. They exchanged rings, simple platinum bands that promised permanence without ostentation. When the officiant pronounced them married, Victor's kiss was tender and reverent, a man grateful beyond measure for the second chance he'd been given. Noah's delighted cheer broke the solemnity, his 5-year-old voice carrying across the garden. Now we're really a family, like a real pack. Victor swept their son into his arms, pulled Elena close with his other arm, held his entire world with the fierce protectiveness of someone who knew exactly how close he'd come to losing everything. Yeah, champion, we're really a pack now. All 3 of us together, exactly how it's supposed to be. The reception was equally small. Good food, simple dancing, speeches from Marco and Maria that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. As the sun set and guests began filtering out, Elena found herself alone with Victor and Noah, the 3 of them sprawled on a blanket in the garden watching stars emerge. Mama? Noah's sleepy voice drifted up. Are you happy now? The question hit deeper than a 5-year-old could possibly intend. Elena looked at her son, at the man who'd become her husband again, at the life they'd built from impossible circumstances. She thought about this bakery where it all started, the bullets that should have ended them, the choices that had led them here. Yeah, baby, I'm happy. The truth of it settled over her like grace. I'm really, truly happy. Good, Noah yawned, already drifting toward sleep between his parents. 'Cause I'm happy too. I got a mama and a daddy and horses and everything. Victor's hand found Elena's across their son's sleeping form, fingers tangling together in the darkness. No words were necessary. They'd both traveled impossible distances to arrive at this moment, this peace, this family, this love that had survived everything thrown against it. Above them, stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to human struggle and triumph. But here, in this garden with her family, Elena felt the weight of 6 years lift completely. She wasn't running anymore, wasn't hiding, wasn't living in fear of the past catching up or the future falling apart.
She was staying, choosing, building something permanent from the broken pieces of everything they'd been. And for the first time since she'd fled into the night carrying Victor's child, Elena Cross Moretti felt completely, utterly, impossibly safe. Not because there were no more threats, not because danger had magically disappeared, but because she'd stopped facing it alone. She had a partner who would move heaven and earth to protect their family,
A son who reminded them both why fighting for peace mattered, a future that held possibility instead of just survival. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness, to the man beside her and the child between them and the life they'd chosen together. Victor's response was certain and true. "I love you too. Both of you. More than anything. Forever." And in that moment, with her family surrounding her and stars wheeling overhead, Elena believed him completely. This was their ending, their beginning, their imperfect, complicated, absolutely real happily ever after. Together, exactly as they were meant to be.